in percent. We're really glad you made the drive here today to be the goal owner. I'm Gina Hugo, the current chair of Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails. My day job is at Sherburne County for the Parks Department. And just again, want to welcome you all here. We're going to start with roll call and introductions. If Brad is ready, I will go around the room. I'll start at this table and I'll just kind of. So, I'm gonna start with Trevor.
Trevor Pundia, Northland Arboretum.
Okay, and so perfect name, where you're from, and then the latest trail you hiked or path you walked.
Okay, Trevor Pundia, Northland Arboretum, Acorn Trail at the yard, we had a prescribed burn.
Jonathan Wolf, Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission, District 4. I live in St. Cloud. Latest period or in our system?
The latest period.
Okay, I guess the High Castle Trail in Lviv, Ukraine.
Well, that was great. Okay, now, everybody can talk that.
It's actually, I'm here with Trevor. The last one I did was the Crosby, this one.
I'm gonna bump it back to Tom.
Tom Salkowski, treasurer. I can't remember the last trail I was at, but, probably the Superior Hiking Trail on the North Shore.
I'll go to that back table.
Darlene Cole, Lincoln City, Litchfield, let's see, I did part of, I did Lake Ripley. But I also did walk at our new wellness center, but that's indoors, I heard.
Elizabeth Torkelson, City of Lydia. The last trail I hiked was probably the trails of the city of Lydia. Crystal Johnson, City of Granite Falls. I would say last trail, probably Memorial Park. in Granite Falls.
John Griffin from County Department Rail.
Joe Chupesky, Assistant Black Coordinator for the Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission, and probably last trail will be Superior Hiking Trails.
I'm Lisa, I'm from Lake City, City of Lake City, Oaksville Park, I'm the park manager there, and I walked the park.
Doug Route with the Lake City Port Authority, and on Saturday, I rode the Cannon Valley Trail, just outside of Redmond.
Jackson McDowell, just Iowa County, Jackie Lord.
Sarah Weed, Stearns County Parks Department, and probably also I.
Moser, Stearns County Parks Department, and same to the state forest.
Matt Anderson, Stearns County Parks, Roy Park, and learn.
Lynn Newman, City of Hutchinson, Bruce Line Trail. Aaron Lee, City of Hutchinson Parks. I would say any of our parks trails that we have in our community, obviously, out there for that, but outside of Hutchinson would be the least.
People leaving us in the DNR, my last one was, nobody's heard of it, Barney Lake Trail, a little tiny trail.
Well, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Alright, Carson Montgomery County Parks and Trails, First Rock, not trails. I'm probably Superior Hiking Trail.
Jesse Dean, Randolph County Parks, our trails at Beaver Pole.
Joe Clark, Sac County, outside our parks, lovely Albanian.
Nice. Biking or hiking?
Walking.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Stuart Crosby with SREC Consulting Group, Central Lake State Trail.
Don Larson, City of Multiple Parks and Recreation, and a haunted trail in Big Lake. Just the season.
Josh Boss, City of Elk River Parks, and probably the great.
Elizabeth Maple, Sarah Duca, and I work with Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails, and don't hate me, but it was a metro park. I was hiking out at Lake Elmo Park Reserve, which is really beautiful. What the downside is that no matter how deep in the park you get, you still hear the airport, but it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So Brad Harrington, Brett County Parks and Rec, also secretary for the commission, or for not for the commission, but for Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails.
Probably the last trails are on, were actually ours at Night Park.
Yeah. Carlin Ziegler, Olmsted County Parks and Trails, last one I had was Game Haven in City of Rochester.
I'm Sarah Thompson, I'm the Forest Recreation Specialist for Lake County Land Department, and also the rep for GMPT. And work related, I was, actually it was on an ATV trail, the Wilderness ATV Trail up in Marcel area, and I passed it. But hiking on, we have trails on our property north of Elam, so we've been hiking up there.
That's it.
Hi, Larry Lucci, Seward County, just this part here, half hour ago or so when I pulled up for a quick walk.
Jordan Edel, HKGI or design firm, that's major trail, probably gonna be up in Pettigrew.
That's a good one.
Nick Jacobs, City of Otsego, Parks and Rec, Parade Park for our offices.
Okay, that's everybody, but we can go online.
Yep, so we got Jennifer online. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Jennifer Zemer, Goodhue County Public Works, and the last trail I was on was the Cannon Valley Trail here in Goodhue County.
So the next one, I'm gonna have to go with last names because they're all Sarah's. So Sarah Chiquetto.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Chiquetto with the St. Louis and Lake County Regional Railroad Authority and Mesabi Trail, and the Mesabi Trail would be the last one that I walked.
Sarah Evanson.
Hey, Sarah Evanson from HKGI. I just got back from the ASLA convention down in New Orleans and was on their Mantorville Parks and Trails system.
Last is Sarah Hoffman.
Hi, Sarah Hoffman from Detroit Lakes. I work with Project 412, and the last trail I hiked was at our new Ortonstone Gardens.
Okay, thanks, everybody. A couple of logistics and then we're gonna do an icebreaker trivia. So bathrooms are in the hallway and we're striving to be as plastic free as possible. So we have the coffee lid, and as far as I know, that's the only non-compostable thing we've got to throw away. So the water cups are on the counter and there's a water filling station in the hall as well. So thank you for accommodating that. And yes, you won. That's like any place to hide. Not that I know, but okay, so we can move on to, if you haven't caught it, today is Tuesday and the theme is trails. So we're doing Tuesday trail trivia. The prize is trail mix. And my co-host for today's trivia show is Mr. Joe Chapusky. So I'm gonna invite Joe to come up. And now I want you to all to just imagine that you have a buzzer on your table. So when you know the answer, you gotta hit your buzzer. We'll see how this works. It worked great in my mind. First question. How many regionally designated trails are in the greater Minnesota system? A, 25, B, 18, Joe, you can't guess, none of them. Do I have any other commissioners here? Or C, well. When you know it, hit your buzzer.
I'm gonna be, I don't know, no sign.
Ah.
A. T.
How many think it's A?
So next.
How many think it's A? Okay. How many think it's B? And how many think it's C? Okay, A's win. So you said. And our co-host will pass out. And hopefully I have enough time.
Thank you.
Oh, I guess.
All right. Question 2. What is the longest DNR state paved bike trail in Minnesota? Oh, excellent.
Why, yeah.
Good job. Paul Bunyan State Trail.
Actually, it's not. It's the Mesabi Trail. Mesabi Trail is 158 miles complete right now.
But is it paved?
It's not regional.
Yeah. It's 100% paved.
Regional, it's regional, not state.
Correct.
Right, regional. There you go.
But you know what? I've been wrong like 9 times today, so. It wouldn't have struck. All right, question number 3. Don't hit your buzzer yet. I gotta get to the question on my finger. Which bike trail's name was inspired by a fictional town? Greater Grand Forks Greenway, Lake Wobegon Trail, or Sakata Singing Hill State Trail?
Stearns County should be,
So. Okay. So, B.
Too easy.
Everybody's. But I'm excited for it, so thank you.
Okay. So thank you, everybody. First, we wanted to start with something really fun, because now we're gonna get into the business portion of our meeting. But then we're gonna get fun again. No, this is gonna be fun too. So. We're gonna begin with the treasurer's report. So I'd like to invite Mr. Tom Solkowski, longtime treasurer for Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails, to share the treasurer's report.
Do we have it for the? Our treasury is not very complex. I think the main points are that the balance a year ago and the balance right now are about 500, within a $500 of each other. We're doing well. Everything else really is quite routine. Those of you who look at the dues per calendar year notice some variations, but that's because we collect dues in December and January. And it really depends from year to year how much of it came in December as opposed to January. That's why the annual one switches back and forth. Dues paid by members is obvious. And we're doing well. We went down a little bit in 24, but we came back up in 1925 to 141 paid members. I guess any questions? There really isn't a whole lot else to report.
You can see we run pretty lean.
Yeah.
Any questions online, Brad?
Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. So real quick, you know, we just want to review some of the 2025 highlights. And really, like 2025 has gone really fast so far, but when I look back at all of the significant events that marked 2025, it seems like multiple years worth of events were jammed into one year, like, you know, touching on politics, international affairs, climate, weather, wildfires, all these things that marked our year. But within our organization, we do have some successes that, you know, we achieved despite or in spite of the realities of our world. So, we're gonna start with talking about the highlights that were achieved through the membership committee, and we have a communications committee. We will, talk about all of the successes and initiatives that the communications committee has been able to work on. So I will, is Brad gone? here?
No, it's not, so I can do it,
Okay, yep.
you'd like, okay. So, great.
So Elizabeth is on our membership committee.
Yes, hi, Elizabeth Wayfall. I do the lobbying, but also more. So, our membership committee, has been active this year. As you saw the numbers from Tom, we're actually back up a little bit this year. I think at our highest number ever. Which is great. And what is it, Tom? 144?
141.
141, either way, still the highest number ever. So basically, our membership committee, which is the most exciting committee ever, and I think all of you should join it. Because we're always looking for more members for that committee. Our goal is to retain and recruit members. Again, those numbers are pretty even, but continue to inch up. I'm gonna be honest, I've been working with this organization for about a decade, and I wanna say that when we started, it was probably like around 50 to 60 range. So we've really doubled. We've added a lot of cities into the group. We've added business members, nonprofits. It's been really exciting, the membership growth. Obviously, though, we'd always like to add more. So we have a target list, for example, of cities and counties who may have designated parks that aren't members yet. We will be coming in a friendly, polite way. Because everything we do benefits them, as well as folks who don't have designations, because our focus is both on regional parks and trails, but also local parks and trails, which I'll talk about when I get to the legislative update. My slides just went, but we also
Nope.
okay, we also recruit business members who serve our our local governments, and during the lunch break, we actually will be hearing from a couple business members, but if you have vendors like engineering firms, we have a cultural consultant who's a business member, any folks like that you think should be a member, tell me or one of our membership committee folks, like Joe Tart is also on the membership committee, so great to have him. Great to get some more folks in there. Next page, please. Big thank you to all of our members. Quite frankly, this is a membership organization. We run lean and mean, but great to have all the folks show up in Wilbur today. Everybody who participates on everything we do is a huge thing. We are going to be doing renewals in mid-November. I do want to give you guys, so you're kind of the first maybe to know as a heads up, we are trying something new this year. We're adding a new software program, and so our first run at invoices is actually going to be online. We're going to send electronic invoices for the first time ever. And then we'll follow up with paper emails for those who that doesn't work for. But it's a different way to do things, but we'll be doing that. We saw a slight dues increase last year, but not this year. I actually should have taken that slide off. One thing I do want to remind people, when we said the board has been, setting the membership dues, we kept them actually pretty flat for almost 6 years, 8 years, and we've had some slight increases. But we still keep them relatively affordable, particularly for our small and mid-sized cities and counties. But we're able to do that because we have people who give voluntary assessments that's equal to up to the same amount as their dues. And what that does, it's, I don't want to call it socialism, but it basically helps sort of the counties and cities that are in a better position help those that may not be. So if your city or county or nonprofit or business can give a little bit more, please think about that when we're renewing again. It helps us keep the 144 members that we have. And then again, we are continuing to work on our business drive, so please shoot me or Joe or Brad Bonk emails of potential business members. Okay, next slide. And then big thank you to our membership committee, Brad Bonk, who couldn't make it today, Joe Tart, Renee Matson, who is in Portugal, I think, at the moment, Ross DeMont, Alicia Waltz, Watts from Duluth, and Jesse Dean from so great crowd of you folks. So we need you. We meet the second Monday of the month, and I'd love to have you join our committee. Back to Gina, okay?
So I'm actually involved in the communications committee, but under the great leadership of another member, Mary Jo. Is she on?
She is.
Okay. This couldn't be more awkward. Worst dream ever. So our communications committee works on putting together forums, and this was born out of COVID. One of the good things that came out of COVID was our desire to want to stay connected and continue networking and commiserating whatever the moment called for. And so we started doing virtual forums. And we are continuing that in 2025. We did, the forums listed on the screen, providing legislative updates during session, providing a session on grant opportunities. And we had Minnesota Driftless Hiking representative on to talk about their initiatives. We did a virtual session on Emerald Ash Borer and what the city of Elk River is doing and how they're handling the epidemic that's moving through the city right now. We had one on emergency response plans that Carolyn helped put together based on her experience in Olmsted County. And next up, we're gonna be hosting the Minnesota DNR to provide updates on the state comprehensive outdoor recreation. We'll be watching for that one. And if you have topics that you think would make good forums, please reach out to the communications committee and let us know. We're always looking for ideas. And if you have some experience or a project that you want to do a forum around, let us know. We're here to learn from each other and really provide learning opportunities for professional development and make outdoor recreation better across greater Minnesota. So our communications team meets about monthly. Sometimes we do the meetings via email during the busy season, but we still get stuff done. And in our e-newsletters, we try and hit these benchmarks. We provide park and trail and business member highlights. So if you have projects you want to highlight, an amazing accessible playground, evidently that's out here, that would make a great article for the e-newsletter. If you did a new project or a new education initiative or program initiative that you'd want to share about, or if you're a business member and you want to promote a project or your business. And then you can always let us know what additional communications would be beneficial for you. We don't do a lot of social media because honestly, we just don't have anyone on the communications committee who really is into social media. And maybe we're all too old. But it's just not been a thing. So if you love social media, come join us. We would love to have you and learn from you. And you can always contact us at Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails, the Gmail account. And I want to thank all of the communications team members, Mary Jo, who cannot be here, and she will hear from me later. Carlin Ziegler, Brad Harrington, Alex, who is, I just want to mention how great Alex is. Alex works with Elizabeth, and she's like the behind the scenes worker bee, and she's kind of glue that holds us all together, to be honest. Renee Matson, who evidently is having more fun right now. Sarah Weed, Sarah Geppetto, John Jordan, and Josh Fox. Okay. And was somebody else gonna do this section, or are we gonna mix it up, or y'all wanna listen to me for that one?
I think it's you.
Okay, it's me. See how loose we run? So we had a lot of grants this past session go out to Greater Minnesota, which is really, really gratifying, because that's what this organization is about, is keeping those funding sources available to all of you. And some of them highlighted on the screen, the local DNR Connections grant, went to the city of Rochester, Faribault, Bemidji, Sartell, Albert Lee, Owatonna, and Herm. So pretty awesome. And then the DNR outdoor recreation grants, the city of Duluth, La Crescent, Monticello for the Bertram Chain of Lakes Regional Athletic Park. That's pretty cool, Brad.
That'd be the city.
Sherburne County, that's me. And the city of Winona for Prairie Island. And
Yeah, now it's, yeah, so do you want me to take over from here?
sure,
Yeah,
okay.
because I think it leads into the legislative.
Perfect. Okay.
So, I brought this up, why did he just tell you all those folks who got grants? So you all know if you've got legacy grants or not, and if you don't, I'm sure Joe can tell you if you get up and talk. So why does this matter to folks? Why, we remind folks about the local, not just regional grants we get, but the local grants, is because that's what our advocacy does. Sometimes people think we only work on legacy stuff. Legacy is a very important part of what we do. But we also work on local and regional, parks and trails grants, like those ones that, Gina just mentioned, as well as the LCCMR. And we've also helped secure new funding sources, not just for legacy, but for the local parks and trails grants. And so the LCCMR recommendations, for example, for this upcoming 2026 season is for $3.8 million for local grant programs. So we will continue to make that a part of what we do. So again, we always want to make sure folks understand. I think when Tom was one of the, very early on members of the organization, and, he can tell you that when this was formed, it was Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Coalition. One of the first things we did when I started working with the organization, and Tom was still on the boards, we changed the name of the organization from Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Coalition to Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails, dropping the regional, because we want to emphasize to everyone that we care about regional and local parks and trails. Advocating for those will be a top priority, and Gina just walked through, you could see the multiple members, particularly on that local trails connection, multiple members getting those grants. That application period opens up in December, so start thinking about where you might be able to use a matching grant for a local trail connection or for something in one of your parks, because that'll open up in late December. And then the LCCMR RFP, that's Legislative Citizens Commission on Minnesota Resources. That is the money coming out of the lottery. Some of that, every year we help support money going into the local and regional parks and trails, but it also, for whatever reason, I'm gonna be honest, I was a little bit surprised, unless I'm missing something. This is the first year in a long while I haven't seen any of our members have some of the parks and trails grants. I think they might have gotten some of the other ones. So get back in there, go get money from these grant programs. That's why we're here to support you. Continue to make sure you get that money and that you can get parks and trails stuff.
And we'll be announcing the solicitations and providing links in our e-newsletter, so be watching that on November, December, as we prepare for the opening of the grant period.
Next slide. Okay, legislative advocacy. Every single time I get up and talk about the legislative session, I get up and say that was the strangest year ever. This year, that's actually true. Unfortunately, ended up being one of the most tragic ones, probably in Minnesota's history as well. But going into the legislative session, it was crazy. An extremely close election and a looming deficit. I don't know if you can remember back to last November, but we came out of the election with a tied House and still continue to have a 1-vote majority in the Senate. As we move forward, unfortunately, we lost Senator Dietzich, so Senate went to a tie. Then, unfortunately, actually somebody I went to college with, I hate to admit that. Turns out he wasn't living where he said he was living, and so the House balance tipped, and that just sort of craziness continued. So we were keeping the legislative session going until about mid-March. So we have that. Then we also had, this is a budget session. We have a budget session every time we have an odd year. You have an election, and then the next year is when we have to do the budget. So actually going into last session, the state budget we didn't have a deficit, but looking out 2 years in the future, the state could be like, hey, wait a minute. If we don't right the ship, we are gonna have a budget deficit. I won't get into the ins and outs of why that happened, but it really affected everything that was happening. It affected people's legislative goals. Unlike 2023, where we had, this massive surplus, we did not have that. There was actually a small surplus, but it wasn't very big. And so there just wasn't the sort of money available to go after things. So those dynamics really hampered it. That late start really compressed legislative activity. And then also, again, once we finally got the House operating, they were equally divided, and that's only second time in Minnesota history where that's happened. And that equally divided House really complicated the process, because normally when you're doing budget negotiations, it's a 3-way negotiation: Senate, House, Governor. You may remember back to 2023, that was all Democrats. This, and then previous years it had been like 1 Democrat, 2 Republican, 2 Democrat, 1 Republican. This year it was the House, Senate governor. So it was a very complicated negotiation process. Sort of, we advocated early and often on quite a number of things. These were some of our goals. We wanted to make sure, you know, again, top priority for us is Parks and Trails money. So we wanted to make sure that we got our share of Greater Minnesota, of legacy funds for Greater Minnesota. We also worked on trying to get the grant reimbursement to the DNR from Legacy sort of reformed a little bit. We wanted to make sure that there was funding for the Parks and Trails grant program. And also, it's always a goal of ours. There are legislators out there, and you're not going to believe this. In fact, you may even know some of them, depending on where you're from. There are legislators who don't like Parks and Trails. We don't get that, but there are. And so sometimes, you know, I would say at least once a session, we have to worry about legislators proposing stuff that would like hamper your ability to do Parks and Trails. We spend time pushing back on that. There were a couple different things also that we did not expect to be working on that took up a lot of our time. First was, I want to say going back, it could be 8 years, but we worked with now retired Senator Carrie Rude to establish a little bit of money in the general fund for the local Parks and Trails grants. And I'm gonna be honest, it's one of those like, it's like Bruno, we don't talk about it because we don't want people to notice it. Unfortunately, this year, the governor's office noticed it as they were balancing the budget, and the governor proposed for moving that. We're able to work with both the House and the Senate to make sure that that was protected. It's not a huge amount, but again, those small amounts of money can make a big difference to your community. We also had the situation where the legislature was supposed to be here to talk about it today, which she unfortunately canceled at the last minute, but we had a strange situation coming out of the House. So as you all know, or hopefully know, legacy funds are divided 40% to the metropolitan area, 40% to state parks, and 20% to Greater Minnesota. Would we like to change that formula? Probably. Do we have the number of legislators in Greater Minnesota who can sort of outweigh the metro to accomplish that? Probably not. So we've kind of unfortunately sort of have accepted that that's where the formula is at. So we look for other ways to just put more money into our pot rather than taking from others. We had a weird situation this year though, where we had the House DFL chair for legacy. Well, both the House DFL and House GOP, they were co-chairs. Both of them were new to legacy. Neither of them really had any experience sort of working with the committee. I think the DFL chair may have been on for a year or two on legacy, but not really experienced with it. Well, for whatever reason, there's a group, Outdoor Inquiry or Wilderness Inquiry, very great group. You know, they do a lot of really good work, and they have been funded before to the tune of several $1 million, but it has come out of a different pot of legacy money. Because the way the Constitution is written for Parks and Trails, that really does have to go to Parks and Trails. Well, she's like, well, these folks need money, they do good work, so I'm going to take it out of the Parks and Trails fund instead. And so basically what she did is she pulled several $1 million from our money, from Metro money, and from DNR money to give to them. Now, Senator Kerr and his team, and he's going to be showing up here later today, but on his way, as his committee administrator texted me this morning, he actually held firm. He's just like, no, that we can't do that. We need to, we need to pay attention to the constitutional language, and we had Gina gave some of the most amazing testimony ever on this issue at a hearing in the Senate. I mean, she actually really did impress people because I think there won't say who, there were some other folks who got up and testified about it. We were almost worried they tanked it for us, but Gina got up there and just did an amazing job talking about why this money is so important to Greater Minnesota, but also how our people work with, underrepresented groups and really sort of use this money to make sure that we are getting everybody outdoors. And so, but that was a big problem. So what happened? We were able to get everything we wanted in that bill. Funding was limited to the 3 partners. The extensions on the funding was approved. There was a push once again from one legislator we won't talk about to try and restrict our ability to use eminent domain. That did not happen. Local Parks and Trails grants, LCCMR money was approved, the general fund appropriation was protected, and then this new program that we don't know a lot about, watch this space. We were approached by the Republican committee administrator towards the end of the session for the Environment Committee for this new community grants program. They wanted to expand it so that there was some limited purposes for which it could be used. Now this pot of money, one of the purposes it can be used for is maintenance of Parks Trust. And so we were very excited about that, provided some behind the scenes support for it. So very excited to see that happen as well. So I think I'm getting the hook from Brad here to shut up and move on. But,
No, I'm trying to time it with you.
yeah. Great. Oh, yeah, sorry.
But I just wanna like touch on why, I mean, everything that happens during the legislative session, when we advocate, it's the numbers of our membership that speak volumes. So your membership really matters. We matter as an organization as Greater Minnesota. So I just wanted to say you matter. How often do you hear that? Yeah. So, okay, on to the nominations committee. Every year we have elections because we have terms on for our board member positions and, so the board appoints a nominating committee. This year's nominating committee is past chair Ben Anderson, myself, Jana Hugo, Renee, who is abroad, and I mean, she's out of the country. She's a female person, I'm not abroad.
That did not sound politically correct at all.
Okay, so it just got more awkward. And Elizabeth Wakefield. So we'll go ahead and, do the nominations for the board election, and I am going to hand it over to Ben Anderson. You want to come on up?
Thanks, Gina. Yeah, so as part of the nominations committee, there is a couple different emails that go out in the communications asking if there's other interest from anybody who's part of the organization. We did not receive any additional interest, so part of our job is to search people who we think might be interested in doing that. So that is what we have done, and that is what you are going to see on the slates today and what you see on up here. So Joe Tart is currently serving as the vice chair. We are recommending that, or suggesting that the group vote him into the chair position. And then Sarah Thompson, we reached out to her and she has also said that she would be willing to serve as the vice chair. So with that, I'm gonna ask 3 times if there's any other nominations from the floor before we vote. So are there any other nominations from the floor for either the chair or vice chair position? Are there any nominations from the floor? Last time, are there any nominations from the floor? Anything online? Nope. Okay, hearing none, I'd look for a motion to adopt the slate, and when we make the motion, please say your name.
I'll make the motion, Elizabeth. I'll second. Carlton.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to the next. So we have a couple districts, we have a couple returners, and we have a new member. Again, we sent the email out asking for interest, we didn't receive any. Both Carlin and Josh are willing to reserve in their representative districts, and we have Trevor, would be a new board member, who is said that he's interested in serving as that. So you can see the districts up there. Again, I'll ask 3 times for nominations from the floor. Are there any nominations from the floor for any of the 3 districts on the screen? Are there any nominations? Are there any nominations from the floor? Hearing none. Close the nomination side, and I'd be looking for a motion and a second, and again, please say your name.
Sure. Sarah Thompson.
Okay, do a motion for a second.
I'll second, John Durbin.
Okay, we got a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is adopted, so thank you all very much.
Congratulations, everybody.
And for those of you who aren't on the board, and pay attention, watch this, it is something we're looking for more people to feel involved and interested. As people do move off the board, we do want representatives from all over, their different backgrounds in that, so just keep it in mind. As you see, maybe it'll fit in your work schedule in a couple of years and like things like that, but we do want additional people to come on board, we're not a single scary group that meets once a month, but they really do handle a big portion of what
Once
we do.
you step out the door, it won't be scary.
That's
Fun. We have icebreakers every month.
Don't let that scare you off.
Okay, so moving on, I'm gonna invite Elizabeth back up to talk through the legislative policy. Every year we review, the Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails legislative policy. And that may or may not be amended. This year, there are some amendments, we'd like to review with you. And then we also adopt a legislative agenda for the upcoming legislative session. And if you haven't grabbed, the legislative policies for 2026. And on the flip side is the legislative agenda. Just come on up and grab one here. Or Tom has offered to pass them in, so.
All right. Great. So I am gonna jump in and talk about a couple things. Before I do that, congratulations to everybody who joined the board. If you're not on the board right now, I would encourage you to think about joining one of our committees as a great way. A lot of times we're recruiting board members from our committee. So if you want to get more involved in the organization, we have membership committee. We have the communications committee. If neither of those interest you, you can always reach out to the board and we can see if there's other ways you can, sort of help out. But we are always looking for more help with our committees and our organizations. So, so as we go to adopt this, just talking about our legislative policies and our legislative agenda, you will see, this should say draft on both sides, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm not talented enough with the computer to put draft on both sides. That's why there's only draft on one side, but what the policies are, is these are the standing platform that describes the stances that, we take on issues. And there's no need to vote on this unless, there's proposed amendment or someone moves for a vote. So every once in a while, we'll go to one of these meetings, people will look through our legislative policies and be like, I don't like number X. I think we need to change the language or something, and then we discuss and vote on it. If that doesn't happen, or there's no proposed changes, then we don't do anything on that. But it basically helps us guide sort of what we choose to work on. The other thing it really helps us with is a lot of times during the legislative session, we're playing both offense, which means we're trying to do something, but also defense. And what the policies really help is that when sort of legislative proposals come up that we need to react to, for example, the situation where there is a legislator who keeps wanting to take away our ability to use eminent domain for legacy money. We know from looking at our policies that that is something we would oppose. There's other weird policies once in a while that get proposed, or there's cuts to funding and things like that. That will look at this and be like, hey, that goes against our policies or it supports our policies, and we will help support that. But for example, that community grants program sort of very loosely ties into our policies, but we thought it was close enough that we could be supportive of it. To be honest, also it helps us sometimes because every once in a while we'll get really strange requests to oppose or support something, and we can always be like, it's not part of our policy, so we're not talking about it. So helps us both ways. Legislative agendas, this is something we adopt every year. I'll be honest, the group has been around long enough that our policies, we've kind of got a rhythm. It doesn't look that different from year to year. As I mentioned earlier, the odd years are the budget year in the legislature. That's when our focus is a lot on making sure that we are protecting the legacy funding and making sure that there's no funding cuts on the local parks and trails grants. On the even years, the activity isn't quite as high. Sometimes it's like, cleanup work on legacy, making sure there's no bad policy ideas, and also supporting like the LCCMR and trying to get money for bonding grants. The second, I would say, even years about putting more money into the local parks and trails grants programs is probably the biggest thing. So that explains what the policies and the agenda are. Moving on to the next page. We don't really have, we're going to jump into the agenda. We don't really have any big changes on policies. If anyone has any idea, we don't need to take action on it because we're just keeping them kind of the same. Is there suggestions or changes anyone wants to propose? Not saying like we need them, but we do kind of have to throw that opportunity out there. Good, I'm not seeing any, that's excellent. Okay. what we are doing on the legislative agenda then is we are adopting all of these items. And now I was gonna originally do like a red line, but because we adopt a new slate every year, I didn't do that. So there are two new or amended items. The first is a completely new item, and that is listed as number 1. And there is draft legislation that I have been working with Renee from the commission on, and basically, the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission was formed, I wanna say back in 2013, is that right, Joe?
Correct.
And, you know, when it was formed, people didn't know what it would look like, they just knew it was gonna be something, you know, used to help guide how, spending was done in Greater Minnesota. I'm gonna be honest, it was very interesting when it was first created. Sort of one of the impetus there were some folks in the metropolitan area, some legislators and some lobbyists who just didn't think Greater Minnesota could be trusted to spend its money properly and that things needed to be done. And so, you know, we had some good legislators from Greater Minnesota, like the late great Senator Thomas Sonny, who was like, I'm pretty sure Greater Minnesota has a center control, but you don't think we're due, you know, we do, we're gonna establish a commission to prove to you that we know what we're doing. And so the commission was created in statute. However, you know, through the years, there's just been changes in how they do things. And, you know, Renee and her group kind of looked at it and there's like, you know, there's some policy changes we need to make. Let's make this updated. There's just, I'm not gonna get into kind of the weeds of it, but basically making some changes, for example, on how often they elect their chair or the process for a county or city to submit a grant. So there's some pretty simple changes like that they are gonna be pushing at the legislature and have asked for our support. So that's policy number 1. The second one is that we have found over the last couple of years, and this may have happened to some of you, in fact, I know it's happened to a couple of you, that, you know, you're working on your legacy grant and something will happen. You have a contractor who can't show up, supplies are stuck in God knows where because of tariffs or whatever. And so even though you have that time period to get your grant done, you can't always get it done. By state law, they are set up with a specific expiration time. What we have done the last couple of years, and we will, you know, continue to do again this year if it needs to be, is support the efforts of, and again, it's every time this happens, it is one of our members, so we do think it is important to support, is make sure that, you know, the legislature is extending the availability of that grant money. It's not like they're extending it out 10 years, it's usually like extending it by a year or two. But a lot of our folks have experienced that, we wanna make sure they can still use it. So those are the two new and amended items. Then, had these items before, we support, again, local parks and trails grants, keep emphasizing how important money is for those programs. A major source of funding is that LCCMR bill. Support the passage of that. You know, you might ask yourself, why do we even have to have that? Isn't that automatic? One would think it would be automatic. We have seen over the last couple of years, some years it happens really quickly, other years it doesn't. So we have actually had to go in there with other groups some years to try and make sure it's passed. Hopefully this year will be no problem. The other thing that we will support is trying to get an appropriation in the bonding bill. This is what I would call our stretch goal. It's something we would really like to see, you know, some years it happens, some years it doesn't. I think the challenge for us on $4 million in the bonding bill is that it's gonna be a smaller bonding bill and there's gonna be a mass, there's like billions of dollars in requests for what is gonna be a small amount of money. So doesn't mean we're not gonna push for it, but it is something I like to set expectations, try to overshoot those expectations. So let's overshoot our expectations on that. So those are the items. So, but if you want to go back up, because then I'm going to hand it back to Gina, who will take the motion for adoption and I'll answer the questions we have.
Are there any questions for Elizabeth?
Do we know any of the specifics on number 1 as far as updated, modernized? Sort of ties us into supporting anything that show up.
We did send the language from the board
Okay.
weeks ago. So.
I didn't read it thoroughly, no.
But it is, Joe, do you have any comments on the language?
I wish they brought the list with me, so I don't have it all top of mind. I do have a couple of slides, we can send that information out if you have questions. Like you said, it's mostly just change in process for us to reflect how we actually operate things, such as how often we want to elect a new chair. I think our current language says we do it annually, we would prefer, and we have in practice been doing it every other year. There's a little bit in there about, how designations come to us or funding applications, what the process is locally. We think our public engagement process, our recommendations are much more robust than the public hearing, which is the only requirement as a part of the legislation. So we'd like to amend that to reflect that. Maybe one or two other similar things, but, this is just a process of modernizing some stuff that's been there for 10, 12 years. And, getting it up to date with, to reflect our current practice.
Thanks, Joe. Any other questions? Okay, so, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to, adopt the legislative agenda for 2026. And when you make the motion, please state your name.
So moved, Tom.
Motion by Tom, is there a second?
Stuart, Crosby.
Second by Stuart. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, motion carries. All right, next, we're gonna get into our guest speaker for today. I'd like to invite Kate Booth. Oh, wanna take a bathroom break? So we've got 4 minutes. Okay, let's take a 3-minute bathroom break because I know what to pay for. And during that, transition, we have to the front.
Cheetah?
Unfortunately, my USB. So I tried to get a presenter for it. Okay. So you can, if you wanna come over, just hit that arrow. I can do that. I'm gonna hang here just to kind of watch for this stuff. Yep. Yeah, if you wanna do that, you can come over and sit to the arrow. Yeah, I tested the presenter out yesterday, and I forgot my USB port shot.
Oh, that's a bummer.
It won't take anything, so I.
That's good.
Just thinking. Another year.
I got another year.
I got another year. Yeah, they replace about every 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm still in, warranty, it doesn't cost me anything, so they'll fix that.
Wait, how would they do that if they can't fix it?
Yes, next year, so once I roll that. What's wrong with my machine? We had one without warranty recently that had a screen that cracked on.
Oh.
Luckily, we had another machine that said, gone wrong, he did not see screens, and we literally opened it.
I could do that.
Yeah. He wasn't working, it just replaced the screen. That's it.
Yeah, I didn't know you could do that. I guess it's what they buy out the cities.
Yeah.
No, it's doing well.
And I handle. It's that.
It's the owl thing, okay.
Yeah, so the closer to it, obviously, the less of you there, right? The more of you they're seeing, if you wanted to see your face.
Okay.
And really what it is more than what.
Yeah, I got that. Right. Makes sense to me.
So that's what it is.
Yeah.
3/4 empty here.
Oh,
So.
there we go.
Yeah.
Good. That's right, Kate. This experiment.
Yeah, it's just that arrow right there, we'll move you forward. The other next to it is back.
How did that go? Like, you were.
Back it.
All right, cool.
I'll take this.
Okay, don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's not that easy.
Looks like I won't see you.
You don't have to sign for this.
Next one again, if you can get settled. Yeah.
It's like talking to the sixth graders.
You gotta worry about your family.
Yes.
Well, I'm really excited to invite, have been able to invite and get an acceptance from Pete Boulay. He's the assistant climatologist. And we go way back, although we haven't seen each other for like 20 years. When he came and spoke to, an annual meeting that when I was with the Sherburne Soil and Water Conservation, he's the district technician. Just newly into my career,
Yeah.
maybe you were too.
I was already there 20 years.
Oh my goodness. All right, so Pete is gonna talk to us today about climate change. And I'll
Climate
just
change.
Pass it
All
on to
things
you.
climate.
Yes,
Okay, Gina.
yes, thanks, Pete.
Elizabeth too for inviting me here, and I was just in Lake Elmo Park too myself. It's a great place. Check out, and I'm gonna scuttle back and forth here between my slides and see how this works. Had to put everybody's got a favorite park, right? Of some kind as you grew up. This was my park, Wakefield Park in Maplewood, Ramsey County, just north of St. Paul. It was kind of a unique park. It was split in half, owned by the county and the city. So it was always kind of interesting. How do you manage something that's split in half, right? So that was over the years, kind of an interesting way they did it. This is 1983, and this is same picture, same location in 2023. So 40 years later, it's a good example. How did your parks change over time? You know, these trees were not planted by anybody. There's no plan here. That's just how they grew, right? Although they did plant a bunch of ash trees in this park. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And when I come to a place, I always look at the trees, right? What do we got in this park? Do we have all the same tree? Thank goodness, no, right? We do have ash trees. I see them out there. Those are probably planted. We got some oaks, cottonwood. What else we got? We got all kinds, which is great. So that's kind of one of my themes too, is avoid monocultures, right? That's a theme. So yeah, might as well go ahead. Oh, a little bit about me. That's my Halloween costume.
Just gotta get me signed.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that, just, yeah. So started watching weather at 9 years old. And if you want to get a lot of candy for Halloween as a kid, make your own costume. The uglier, the better, because you get the sympathy candy, right? So that, yeah, so I went to St. Cloud State for meteorology and went to a few quarries myself up there. I know now there's an official quarry park, so I've been to that too. That was great. And then I wound up getting a job through a private weather company called Weather Eye. And we did agricultural forecasts, and then Cavoris Incorporated did more forecasting. My job was through the whole world. So I would forecast for Easter Island, which is really weird when you think about it. Not much data out there anyways. Then I became a part of the state climatology office because I like to talk to the media. So that was why they hired me. They didn't really want to talk to the media, so I do. And then I still do that to this day. And then I still keep a weather log. So, yep, next slide. So here's talk a little bit about, I got so many pictures of parks and but you don't think of in a presentation, put all the park pictures up. So like anywhere I go, there's probably a park or a trail in the picture somewhere. So like, oh, here's the Wabasha Riverfront Trail. This is the Eagle Center. Gorgeous, October 16, 2021. And that's another part of my theme is what is changing. And fall colors are what's changing for us in this snapshot right now. So that's going to be another one of my trends. Talk about how wet it's been, how dry it's been, a lot going on, what's going on right now. And of course, I got to have a peek at the future. I'm still a meteorologist at heart. So everybody wants to know what's the winter going to be like, right? So we'll see. All right, next slide. This is a complicated graph. So I love it because there's a lot to talk about here. Basically, cool is on this side, warm is on this side, and precipitation is dry on the bottom, wet on the top. So warm and wet is up here. And really what's been happening in the Latin since the 2000s is the warmth. This really stand out. Now this is through the entire state, all the best stations we got everywhere in the state. And some years are cool, some years are warm, dry or wet. 2019 was the wettest year on record. And then this cluster of warm and a little bit wet years in general, even though we've been kind of in a drought, it's nothing compared to some of the big droughts. So, that's just been kind of the trend, warm and wet conditions, including 2024 was another one of those warm and wet year. It was the warmest year on record for the state going back to 1895. So 2025 still remains to be seen. We're probably going to wind up a little drier and probably a little warmer. I don't see it unless we really have some surprises in November, December, which could happen, but we'll see. Overall, 2024 added to the existing warming trend. The summers haven't really been warming up as much as the winters. So the bottom line is the biggest change we're seeing is overnight minimum temperatures in the winter are going up. And that has an impact on all the trees, all the plants and everything in the state. Maximum temperatures in the summer have not been increasing that much, especially in southern Minnesota. And you might ask, how come? Well, part of the reason is because we're more humid than we used to be. And solar radiation, you got to heat up the ground to get it really warm outside. And if there's a lot of water in the air, you'll wind up heating the water instead. So instead of heating the air. So we don't get quite as hot in the summer. But winter, whole nother story, December through February. And as you go farther north, there's a bigger impact. The main reason is because if you have less snow cover, you're going to be warmer. And that's what's happened in recent years. We still get snow. We just don't keep it on the ground as much. So the statistic I use, we have a huge volunteer rain gauge network. Gina knows this very well. Sherburne County, yep, all those little dots is somebody with I should have brought the rain gauge. It's a plastic rain gauge about this big. I had to stop at the Candio High SWCD to say hi, and I grabbed rain gauge forms. So they still use, all these people still use paper forms. I know They are still green forms, yes. So some things haven't changed a whole lot. We have a digital network too called Kokoraz that's over the entire state too, about that many dots. But the great thing about this network is there's dots in every county in the state. So when we make our maps, we can represent everybody. Some counties have more than others. Sherburne was always a high flyer, always one of our good counties. So some of them are hard to come by just because there isn't a lot of people. Middle of Coochin County, there's a lot of bog up there. So yeah, it's hard to find observers sometimes. So, yep, next slide. So here's a map created from all those dots. This is the 2010s. And it's a big state, lots of weather. And here's my son on Keller Regional Park Trail. This is one of the challenges you might have is some of those trails might be underwater sometimes, at least in the 2010s. This is 2019. And during that decade, a lot of places had 40 to 65 inches of surplus moisture. So not only was farm fields flooded, but lakes, I asked them, I always ask, what's Green Lake doing? What's Foot Lake? Right? Foot Lake, right? Yeah, Foot Lake. So they're all up right now. And a big area, lots of differences, some places drier. So the 2010s, some places up in the Red Lake area was dry, but in the south, very wet. So the issue with this is everybody got used to this wetness in the 2010s. So just every year, wet, wet, wet. And then what happened? Go to the next year. Here comes 2021, and we have the worst drought since the 1980s. All kinds of issues with water, with trees, and just watering everything in the state, right? And this is another park, E.L. Peterson Park in Pelican Rapids. And that's where kind of close where the dam used to be. And there's a bridge, kind of a neat looking bridge in the background. So anyway, this is the landscape in 2021, and that's up here where it was the worst. And of course, big state, far southeast Minnesota, down by Preston, Winona, not so bad, right? So it could vary quite a bit, but this is a very bad drought up there. Next slide. So what's happened since then? Every year we keep getting another drought. We get rid of the drought, it comes right back, get rid of it again. And right now we're in another inflection where it's starting to get worse again. But of course, it was nice to see it rain today. I drove through it, maybe you drove through it, but it was nice to see it rain because maybe it won't keep getting worse. So we're on this multi-year drought. This is the peak in 2022. We haven't had one that bad since then. So what this is really is the U.S. Drought Monitor comes out every Thursday across the whole country. We provide input into it. There's these levels of drought up to a D4 exceptional drought, worst it can get. So this is D3, so extreme drought. But what's happened over year of drought, we start to see more of this. This is an oak tree at the St. Paul campus where I work. And every year, more of it dies off and it's still standing, but there's only a little bit of green left on it. So what is happening to the trees? And I'm not a tree expert, but I look at them all the time. Lake Elmo Regional Park, what's happening to the oak trees? There's something going on there. They're dying at the top. I don't know why. And part of what's going on with our state parks, we have, where Nerstrand Woods State Park is, they have a lot of trees dying, and that was because it was so wet in the 2010s. They don't like wet feet. So definitely a concern is what's happening with our climate with these serial droughts. And there could have been other things going on with this oak too. There's probably some care that matters. There's a retaining wall in front. And what does retaining walls do? They bake the soil. So there could be more going on here, but definitely having dryness doesn't help. Next. So this is what's going on right now, this week, or this was last Thursday. The new one comes out this Thursday. And this is the worst part we got going on right now. This is kind of, it's a complicated look, just this map alone. There's a lot that goes into it because this area has been drier than I think it should be. The stream flows are low. At least we're getting a little rain now. Southwest Minnesota, Sioux Falls has been really dry, but deep soil moisture at Lamberton, Waseca in the south has been elevated, been good. So there's a lot in deep soil going on right now. but the topsoil's dry. So that's why, you want this rain in the fall to recharge the soil. You get about 30% efficiency when the leaves are still green, and you get 70% efficiency for fall moisture when the leaves are down. So the critical part is that rain from about end of October to the end of November before the soil freezes. So you want to lock in the moisture to be used next year for the plants. So, that's why we're so keen on keeping tabs on what's going on right now. So there's a lot happening there. So looking, just because we've had a few dry years, but looking in the past, we are really in the wettest of all the droughts we've had. So this is the last, 4 or 5 years. It's been drier than this is the normal precipitation line. Normal's 30 years, 1991 through 2020. So next slide kind of highlights what's going on recently. So really, even though we've been dry, it's nothing compared to 1976, 1910. I don't know if I highlighted that. Oh yeah, one more. And the 1988 drought. So those are all worse in general than this. And of course, we want to talk about down here. So I stopped at the historical society in town here, and I go, well, got any stories from back then? They goes, yeah, they're playing softball in Green Lake, on the bed of Green Lake. So it could get a lot worse. So that's part of our history. But what's interesting is whenever we have one of these big droughts, look what happened the next year. We have really wet conditions. So that's happened in 2019 too. So we can break a drought with a big, big year. Next slide. So this is one of my favorite places to look at. Oh, here we are right here, Wilmer. Cold temperatures are rising the fastest. So when I give these talks, I go, well, how do you know it isn't the heat island or something like that? So we find this place called Milan in Chippewa County. And same family's been running the station for 130 years. They have the same equipment on the same farm. Moved probably just a little bit. Next slide. And there is no heat island in Milan. So this is a little temperature shelter. This is a more modern one here. That's their rain gauge there. So we took this data going back to the 1800s and slice and dice it all kinds. And this is what we came up with. So this is the lowest lows of the winter in Milan, 1895 to 2024. And probably the most interesting part about it is what's the coldest cold you get? That's what really affects us. I know when I used to buy a truck, I would insist it have a plug-in. You gotta have that plug-in, and nowadays, I don't know if you really even need it anymore, because when I was at school at St. Cloud State, we get down to -40. And then if -40, your truck will not start. It won't. So unless you do something in a garage, or I had an oil pan heater under my car, and at 40 below, the cord just fell apart. So anyway, so Milan, they don't get down to -40 anymore. Here's -42. -40 is right there, -39. They struggle to get to -30 these days. So that's about 10 degrees warmer than they used to get. And that means a lot. So over time, the coldest temperatures in Milan have been slowly marching up over the years, and accelerated a little bit once you get into the 2000s. So whenever I give a climate change talk, I say there's winners and losers in these things. This is one of the winners. The farmers like this one the most. This is the growing season length trend for Milan. So the great grandparents, the season length was about 125 days. Now we're up to almost 150 days. So big change in growing season. Of course, what does that mean? You can grow that corn that could yield longer. You could grow your garden longer. You could grow more tomatoes longer, peppers. On our experimental farm, we experimented with peanuts, growing peanuts. It worked. Long period, but it did work. So another thing that kind of stands out too is some of these are really short. We might have an early frost, a late frost, but we have not had much of that in recent years. So these events could still happen. We could still have a short growing season, but that's also one of the critters with climate change. Speaking of critters, here's one of them. Anybody who here has heard of Japanese beetles? Raise your hand if you've heard of them. Because I gave this talk like 20 years ago in Chisago County. Nobody knew what they were. And then I gave a talk not too long ago. Everybody knew what they were because what's happening is they have a lethal temperature. They all do. It's 15 degrees for the grubs. You don't want them in your lawn either, by the way. And at 32 degrees for 2 months, they'll die off. This is what they do to your, this is a riverbank grape, I think. And they'll attack, of course, beans, and they attack roses. And what other things they attack? A lot of things you want to keep, right? So I pick them off and put them in soapy water. I don't know if you've ever tried to do something with them, but anyway, next slide. Here's how what is happening with them. It got case aware, we don't get as cold anymore. This is 2009, I gave that talk in Chisago County and they didn't know what they were. This was a talk to master gardeners too. So they would probably be aware of this kind of thing. So the next slide. And so here's the change. This is 2023. So blue, they're abundant and they're spreading northward because we just don't kill them off. They've been around for years and decades. They've been around for a long time. They're a bigger problem in Iowa than here, but they are very annoying when they come to town, into your town. So yeah, this is another one, emerald ash borer, basically arrived in St. Paul in 2009. We were at the intersection of I-94, 35, so you can imagine how it got to Minnesota. Started off in Michigan, and this is a big one because, you know, you can treat your trees. I have a ash tree in my yard. It's $200 every 2 years to treat. How much is it to tear down that tree? I'm gonna find out because I got another one I gotta tear down. So, but this is a huge thing, and what they're shocked about is it showing up in Cass County already. It comes in surges when the weather is really warm. It surges out and is continuing to spread. I hope we have a cold winter. I'd like to slow this down best we can. Next slide. Because otherwise this is what happens. So the ash trees here on this park. What's the plan? Don't know. It's not here yet. Doesn't look like it's here yet. So 5% of EAB larvae should die when it reaches 0, 34% at 10 below, 79% at 20 below, and 98% would die at -30. So we could get down to -30. You'd slow this down. Now, who here has dealt with buckthorn? Buckthorn has a lethal temperature too. If you get -40, you can knock back the buckthorn, but how often does it get to -40, right? So that's one consequence of it being warmer in the winter. Now, so what do we do about trees? Avoid monoculture. So anybody remember elm trees? Elm trees. We all love the elm trees, right? Then Dutch elm disease came to town, got rid of that. What did we all plant instead of the elm trees? Ash trees. So there's such a good deal. You get 10,000 of them in a bundle, right? So I picked up the tree sale from Candy, Ohio. They have bundles of 25 and they have all kinds of trees, which is great. I don't know how you avoid them from being deer food. That's my problem, is you plant something and deer love it. But anyway, this is kind of a nice little snippet of different kinds of trees with, you know, a little bit of everything. So that's one suggestion. Here's another one. You know, what do you do with climate change in trees? There's a couple of things you can think about. You know, moving the trees within the range of how to grow them. You could assist them moving just beyond the current range. You know, maybe a different kind of conifer. So there's a few debates about what's the best way to tackle it. Kind of just be prepared for what could happen in the future. You know, it's just something that we're seeing, and the critters, we can't kill off the critters. We're gonna have to deal with them. Hopefully it doesn't get worse. I worry about other things just showing up someday, you know, and then we got to deal with that too. Next slide. So, what about fall color? So this is me, 1979. So I was ready for the disco. I was ready. So I wish I would have put the date of when this was in Taylor's Falls, because I really want to know when the peak of fall color was in 1979. So next slide. So we have a naturalist, Jim Gilbert. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but if you have a weather guide calendar, if you ever had that, he provides the statistics there. So I've been bugging him. He has papers all over the place with these statistics on it. I go, Jim, we got to digitize these statistics. They're good. So he lives in Carver County. And this is his fall color day trend through 2024. To see what's been the change since the 1960s. This matters a lot. When do people want to go to trails in the fall? Parks, when the fall color peaks. They ask in July, when's the fall color gonna peak? We have no idea really, because you can see how much it can vary, right? So in the last, 15 years or so, the trend has been, basically mid-October has been our fall color peak. It's been a long time since we've had a September fall color peak in the metro. And I do the same thing on the other side of the cities in Maplewood. And I'm pretty close to what his trend are. And I really want to find other phenologists anywhere in the state. If you know anybody with a long record of phenology of any kind, red-winged blackbirds, trees, whatever, I'd love to see it, because the more data we have, it's very interesting. People want to know what's the impact on our parks and trails and everything with climate change. So another way to look at things, we have one of these old instruments. This is a solar radiometer at our weather station. So can we tie in what's going on with the trees to solar radiation? Because somebody goes, well, wait a minute, Pete, isn't it tied to solar? Part of the tree phenology is. Or also, do we get a first frost? That's another factor. I could tackle the radiometer, the radiation part, right here. So looking at this, this is May through September average solar radiation, St. Paul campus. And what you can pick out really quick are the big droughts. There's 1988, 1976, 2012. So anytime we have a drought, you get more solar radiation. Makes sense, right? So we get more sun, might have warmer temperatures. Next slide. How about September? So here's the September solar radiation. So if you really like an extension of summer into September, you got it, because that's what we've been having in recent years. I think we're up to about, about 11 of the past 12 Septembers have been above normal. And that's what's been happening, is we have sunnier Septembers. You wonder, wait, what's that 1965? That's real. That was real. That was a cloudy, cool, rainy September and not much solar radiation. And that shows up in the Milan record and everything else. So if you want a lousy September, that would have been it. That's pretty bad. So anyway, what about other seasons? I'll do one more. I could show these all day. This is December, opposite direction. We're having cloudier Decembers. What does that mean? We have warmer Decembers. In the winter, you're cloudier, you stay warmer because your overnight temperatures stay elevated because of the clouds. So, we have a really cloudy December and some kind of sunny Septembers once in a while. 1991 kind of shows up. It was quite the winter there. So anyway, you could look at this for a while and find particular years, but the trend in December has been cloudier, right? So what about the future? Everybody wants to know what's going to happen in the future. So I love this book, Climate Change in the Year 2000, right? This was done in 1976, 77, and they got all these scientists together, guessed the climate change through 2000. They said about 1.5 degrees Celsius. So if you pick the middle of the road, they nailed it. You're right in the middle, not the high end, not the low end, but the one they were guessing in the middle is what really happened. So for that technology is kind of the dark ages, but they still knew what they were doing even back then. So what about this winter? So we have El Nino, La Nina, always a discussion. We have a La Nina going on right now that's developing. Basically what this means is you have in a La Nina, changes in the jet stream over the Pacific, because where the warm water is, we have a tendency for a little bit cooler air to come down from Canada, maybe a little more snow, and it's a weak La Nina, not a strong one. So of course, that's just one factor into the winter. Next one. This is what the plot is. So the peak of the La Nina is going to be early this winter. And as you notice, that's the blue bar here is La Nina. And we have about 70% chance of La Nina, and then it starts fading away quick. And then we go back to neutral conditions. So La Nina up here, what does it mean? This is the typical November, December, January temperature during La Nina, and more of an impact as you go farther north in Minnesota. Better chance of a colder winter up north than the south. This isn't a slam dunk. We've had above normal winters with La Ninas too. But overall, you might have a little better chance of a cooler winter up there. Next slide. And what does the Climate Prediction Center says? This is what they're saying. They took a three-sided coin. Yeah, so no guts, right? Now, if you look at it really careful though, if in general we've had above normal winters like that December plot, so what they're really saying is here is, okay, La Nina is gonna balance it out where it's not gonna be a slam dunk a warm winter. Okay, so, but still, doesn't really help us out, you know, it could be normal winter. All right, next one. What about snow, right? Are we gonna have a snowy winter? People want to know that too. Better chance of a wet winter when you have a La Nina, especially in northern Minnesota. And if you get into the snow belt areas, another elevated area because you might have more lake effect snow. So what's the Climate Prediction Center? Again, three-sided coin. So, all right, I guess you gotta take what you get sometimes. So next one. So what about distant future? So it looks like overall, going forward, you know, 2041, 2070, more precipitation, more heavy precipitation projected overall. You know, we'll still have our droughts, but overall that trend of a wetter, weather scenario continues as it gets warmer. You know, we'll still get our snow, but it might not stay on the ground as long. So 2010s, very, very wet period. And then it's like the new decade, new weather pattern, series of droughts, interludes a heavy precip, but more often in drought than not. So maybe we'll have an average winter. Last time we had a below normal winter temperature in the state was 2021, 2022. So it's been a couple of years, kind of took a winter off, not last winter, but the winter before. So bottom line is even though our trend is warmer and wetter, expect variability. So. And I got put some handouts there if you want to see what we've been doing for climate. We have our website and everything else. If you want to see what's the latest and greatest. And had to throw a few more. Somebody from Chisago County, right? Somebody's here from Chisago. Fish Lake is where we like to kayak, and then of course Grand Marais, you gotta hike the Breakwater Trail. So you know all that kind of fun stuff. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, we can take a few minutes.
Yes. I don't know how late it's looking for a clock and you're somewhere.
You talked about the effect on vegetation.
Yes.
Is it similar for animals?
Animals.
I noticed more possum dead off the road.
Yes.
There were none here when I moved here in 1980.
I still want to find out more about that. That possum, it's a good one because that, you know, if the weather is good for possum, they move in, don't they? They can
I don't remember ever seeing.
Yeah. Now, if we have armadillos here, that is really good. Like, we're still trying to figure that out, the animal. Yeah. Oh, way in the back.
Is that the worst family of violence?
Hang on, I have to think. What did you say, which family?
Lordson?
I don't think so. I'm trying to think, because there's two family names, I'm trying to think that. It'll take me a second, I'm leaving, I'm gonna remember, not Op Jordan. Op Jordan? Does that make sense? Op Jordans? No? Now you start.
Okay.
No, I've been there, so I should. Luther Op Jordan was the original farmer, I'm trying to think what the. But there is other family names because of their, you know, that many generations, there's other names now, so. Hope the younger ones will keep it going, that's what we're, you know. Oh, yeah.
Is there an increase in like the number of large rainfall events?
Ooh. The problem with large ones is they don't happen very often, so it's hard to see a trend. We have had more what we call mega rains in the last, you know, like 20 years or so. The 2012 in Duluth is one a good example of that one. But yeah, what we're seeing more is an increase for sure, the 1 inch, 2 inch rainfalls. Because more, you can see that. The really big 6 inches or more in 24 hours, the jury's out to see if they're really increasing. We just don't get as many of those. You know, they happen for sure. Some places haven't seen one in decades and decades, and some places have multiple ones. You know, it's like you're there everywhere. Oh.
What do you see on the progression of severe weather?
Oh, good question. Lots of debate about that. we have definitely more juice in the atmosphere, but we don't necessarily have more spin. Cause you need that shear for a tornado to form, so we have bigger storms in a way, cause of more rain. The big jury is there more hail? We don't know for sure. The problem with hail is that we keep expanding our target. So think about hail in the 1980s hitting the Twin Cities, right? And now you think hail hitting the Twin Cities now you're all the way out to, you drive out here to Delano, right? Or to Castle of Dazzle Cocato is almost like the edge of the cities, or St. Cloud.
No, it's not.
No, it's St. Cloud, it's coming. I tell you, the slide I didn't put here
Lake County
is.
refuses to be part of the metro.
No, it's the 11 county metro area.
7-county metro area,
Oh.
important to us.
Yeah, but anyway, so a hailstorm happens somewhere now, you get more damage, so it's hard to tell. Is it worse hail or just everybody's reporting for their roofs now, and back in the day you would.
My Tasman County.
Oh, yes.
We had.
You guys have had some
The
storms.
baseball size field.
Yes,
In the last recent years.
that's a good question,
It's
yeah,
like more progressive,
it could be.
especially bow echoes.
You got a bad one this year up there,
The mid area
Yeah.
got bad.
yeah,
Like,
the blow
Straight
down. Yeah, so it's, the derechos, that's something else we're starting to look into more, yeah. Yeah, are they getting worse? That's a good question. Still more to study in that, for sure.
I think we had one
Oh,
more question
yeah.
over here.
You had mentioned 150-day growing season now or
Yes.
close to it.
Yeah.
Are farmers trusting that and planting those higher growing day varieties, or are they still like, well, if we could get that 110 all of a sudden?
Yeah, it's interesting. I went to a seed conference, and boy, you think people plan ahead? They're planning out 10 years from now, the seed conference. So they'll show a plot of all their seeds that are coming out, by year. And right now, they're coming out with shorter corn. So that for the derechos, doesn't blow down as easy. So I mean, they're really thinking about this stuff, more than I thought. I mean, they're like in it. So yeah, they'll definitely plant higher, longer, yield corn for sure. Because they get more out of it, so.
I would just say that I think what the longer season is, we're seeing that anyway in the Southwest is more farmers and land managers are able to have success with cover crops.
Oh, yes, there you go, that's
Cover
good.
crops, soil, in
Yes.
place, and also
Yeah.
keep moisture in the ground instead of leaving the ground bare. Like trying to be more resilient and deal with the temperatures.
Yes.
The cover, I saw a couple of crops coming in really nicely growing up here today.
Okay.
And Cambio High, something you can't go like down yet, and I think we just are seeing more and more of that down here, where they used to say you couldn't grow cover crops up here.
Oh, really?
And it was too cold or whatever, and it wasn't long enough, but we're really seeing more of that, so I think that's benefiting us more and more.
Yeah, I agree. That's been a good benefit. There's been soil scientists like, why would you want your soil to blow away? Put something down so it doesn't move, so yeah. Oh, one more. Last question.
Yeah.
So you talked about winters and blizzards, I mean, yeah, from a human comfort perspective, it sounds, you're talking higher winter lows and not that much hotter summers. Are we better situated than other areas you looked at?
Oh, yes, I'm sure you're, good question. Maybe. Because obviously you save money on heating if you're warm, right? But then are you using more to cool too? And then are you prepared for what happens? So who here has Excel energy provider? Ever look at your bill? Look at it once, you'll see something called pricing event surcharge. Think what that was. That was from winter storm in 2021 that hit Oklahoma and Texas. Because they weren't ready for it, we're paying for it till the end of 2026. It's weird, they're trying to do studies like exactly what you're saying, I go, but be careful, we're getting billed for stuff that happens thousands of miles. So, should we? I don't know, but it's like, I think they think of people not really paying attention, it's like, well, here's a fee, here's a surcharge, the bill is outrageous now, like 4 pages, right? So, but yeah, could be better off, but you should still prepare for the worst sometimes.
Wait till the data centers hit.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Great. So, all right, well, thanks for having me.
Now I'll invite, Joe Chakowski. He is the Systems Plans Coordinator with Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission up to give an update from the commission. So welcome, Joe.
Thank you very much, Dina, and I really appreciate you scheduling me between a fun, informative presentation and the lunch.
That's all of it.
So good to be here. Great to see so many friends of the commission. A lot of our regionally designated facilities are represented. And it's really fun to be able to catch up with you when you have a chance to do so face to face. So I'll keep this fairly short. I just want to cover 3 different topics. First, I'll talk a little bit about what we do. Then I'll talk a little bit about something new with how we're doing it. And then something really new with how we show some of our results, okay? So thinking about what we do, everyone wants to know it's that time of year we're reviewing funding applications. So how is that going? What are we looking at this year for the number of applications or likelihood of getting funded? Well, I'll let you know that we have we're estimating about $11.3 million for our main program available this year, which includes both development and acquisition type of projects. So 11.3 million available. In the end, as of July 31st, we ended up with 15 applications requesting a little over $20 million. So we've got a pretty large gap this year in our funding for what's available. So we are going through the process right now of working with all of our applicants, where it's feasible, where it makes sense to think about phasing their projects, which we do quite regularly. So we can extend those dollars to as many projects, as many areas of the state as possible. That will continue for the next little while, but by the time we get to November, of course, the commission will have to make some hard decisions. So keep that in mind. We love all of our projects this year. There's a lot of great stuff going on. But when we talk about that 40-40-20 split, you know, we've got capacity in Greater Minnesota to spend more of those dollars. So we're just limited a little bit by what we have available, and we really appreciate all of you who put in good time and effort into putting together great projects, because that's what helps build our system and make it resilient for the future. Next thing, a little bit about how we do things, and this is how we work with you to try and improve accessibility for all residents and visitors in Greater Minnesota. And that is our accessibility forums. You know, it's not just about having parks and trails in all areas of the state that makes it accessible for people to enjoy outdoor recreation. It's also about making sure that all of our facilities can actually be accessible for everybody of all means and abilities. So over the past year, if you haven't had a chance to participate, we've got a quarterly forum going on with Bill Bott, who's an accessibility consultant we brought on. Bill worked for 20 years for the U.S. Access Board, helping to write the standards that we all need to follow for outdoor recreation, for handicap accessibility. So he is a great resource, truly top of the line. You ask him any question, and he's gonna be able to answer it pretty quick off the top of his head. So our last forum, which was on accessible camping and picnic facilities, went really well, some great information, lots of detail. And we're going to do something a little bit different in our next forum, November 12th, which is trying to answer your questions and answers. Try and answer your questions, I should say. So if you have questions that relate specifically to your facility, if you've got a design for a feature you're looking at, or you're trying to figure out what should our accessible trail system look like, you register for the forum, you can submit that question, you can attach some diagrams or design work and submit that to us ahead of time. So we can then go through as many of those questions as we can, and Bill will have a chance to take a look at them and put together an answer for you. So it's a great way. You've got a little tiny question about what's the best way to access this bathroom or develop this picnic table standard, to major things about how do we just improve circulation throughout our facility. Those are great questions. We really want to see everybody take advantage of that while we've got Bill still available to us. So November 12th, register for that online form and submit your questions. So we really appreciate that. So that's just a little bit something we can do, help all of us work together to make our parks and trails better. The next thing that we're going to be working on, and this is more internal to us, is really showing the results of how our system is developing and how the investments we're making are impacting greater Minnesota. So a lot of you who've applied to us or been a part of our system of developing a master plan or designation application, you've been inside our data management system. So you probably have a little bit of an understanding of how much data we've probably collected from a lot of agencies over the years, either through their master plans or most importantly, through their funding application. How many dollars are they requesting? How many applications do we have? What are the impacts and results of some of those projects? So we're combining that with what is right now a rudimentary, but soon will be much more robust geographic information system, online mapping tool that will start to combine some of that information. So we can do some better analysis and show on our maps just where that investments are going in greater Minnesota. So as we start to approach and say 2032, the renewal of legacy, or even just on an annual basis going before the legislature, we can show where those investments are going. How many dollars have been submitted to each of our districts or invested in each of our districts to make parks and trails better? How much went to trails? How much went to parks? How much is gone to each district over the course of time? Those investments are really showing up on the ground. We can see it here, this building, the beach improvements, the amphitheater that's gonna be going up back here. These are major improvements to the park that have completely changed the character of this area and the usability of this park. So those investments, it's really important for us to be able to show just what those investments, true legacy dollars, plus the local matches. Some of you are very, very good at getting some outstanding local matches. So we want to show what all of that is doing to improve greater Minnesota. So new mapping tools coming. Accessibility forum is definitely ramping up for its end of the year question and answer forum. And then we are working through our funding application cycle, which will have great results for some of you and some opportunities for the future for others of you. So thank you very much, and we'll turn it back to Regina Go.
Questions for Joe? May I encourage you, again, we've got a couple of our commissioners with your hands tag over, I don't think she's here, and I'll bring up Jonathan up here, if you have, and Carlin, God, how can I forget Carlin? You know, if you have questions about the commission's work, ask them or Joe during lunch, but is there any other further questions? No, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get lunch and then move into our lunchtime presentation. That's when we do that, which will include some business member presentations. So we have a buffet from Green Mill that's a combination of salad, pasta, and pizza. I don't know who it was, because I don't remember the name. There was one person who requested both gluten-free and dairy-free. We have a special meal for you. As well as there is, so if you're not that, there was one person who requested it. If you did not make that request ahead of time, please don't take their meal. Then we also have gluten-free salad dressing for you. There's an assortment of pizzas, cheese, pepperoni, and sausage, then meat, non-meat stuff. So I'll let you guys have at it, so.
Okay, and apologies, the Green Mill didn't get the memo about plastic free, so. Beg for forgiveness. But please help yourself, and then we'll get settled and fingers on the camera.
Well done. Not bad. I'll leave it.
I mean, yeah.
Our business members are an extremely important part of what we do. So if you want to, one of the benefits that we like to share with our business members is that we like to make sure that's, you skip that.
Sorry.
Okay, our business members, we like to recognize you and give them an opportunity to talk with our members about what they do. And so we've got 4 of our members who are taking advantage of that at this time, and if you go to the next slide, sorry, I can't read, I should have a better memory. Damon Farber is supposedly online, and I think the rest of them all have a representative here. If not, so someone correct me. So if somebody is here from Witset, is somebody here from Witset? They had RSVP, yes. Well, big round of applause for Witset for not talking about it. And I know Stuart is here from SRS, so Stuart, you just want to get up and say a few words about you and your organization.
Sure. Well, thank you, Bob. It's a real honor to be here and to have had the opportunity to work with many of you and to be working with some of you right now. I've been reflecting on some of the things that we are working on and things as we move forward that we're seeing. And I think it's really, Joe, you talked about some of the accessibility work that the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission has been focusing on. SRF has been really, not because of that, but sort of tangential to that. We've been focusing a lot on accessibility as well, trying to get more of our engineers and our landscape architects trained in accessibility and what that means to not only our clients, but to all of the users of our trails and our streetscapes. And to be honest, we're seeing a real interest in that and a real need. So as we're moving forward in our designs and our plans, accessibility is one of the primary components that we're pushing to make sure that that gets incorporated. Not that it's going to be just meeting some standard, but trying to get it for every component of every park or trail that we're working on. The other thing I think we're seeing a lot of is nature play. And one of those elements that really gets people excited, but sometimes can be very challenging when you're thinking about the accessibility. So just a couple of reflections as we see what is up here in the slides and what we've been talking about. But we just are proud to be supporting and really excited to be working with you now and hopefully in the future. Thank you very much.
Next up, I think George from HKGI.
HKGI. Yeah, thank you for having me. And so I'm Jordan Hedlund. I'm a designer at HKGI. We're an interdisciplinary landscape architecture and urban planning firm. So we specialize in a lot of master plans, comprehensive plans, done a number of asset management plans with many of you in this room. And so I'll be here for the entirety and I'll be hanging out at the playground afterwards. So if you'd like to chat more, I'd like to meet and just catch up even with a few of you that I have already met. Thank you.
Thanks, George. And next I want to introduce Tom Whitlock. He is with Damon Farber and Tom is joining us online. So welcome, Tom. Hi.
All right. Hello, everybody. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yep.
Yep, Brad's gonna make that happen here, just a sec.
All right. How was lunch?
Really good.
Good. All right.
Well, keep here, because there's a lot of food.
All right. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, here. 1 second, I'll get it over.
Here it's coming.
I don't know. Wait. All right. You can go, Tom.
Okay, excellent. Well, again, thank you for the opportunity just to present our firm to you. We are a 44-year-old landscape architecture urban design firm in Minneapolis. We also have an office in Madison, Wisconsin. And I'm just going to go quickly here. Our work is guided by what we call sort of the 3 C's. Being curious, collaborative, and caring. Curious because we approach each project with an open mind, eager to learn from the people and the place. Collaborative because we believe the best ideas come from working together with clients, communities, and other disciplines. And caring because ultimately our work is about stewardship, creating spaces that serve people and respect the land. So that those are sort of core principles that we follow in our work. Again, there's some familiar names and faces, so hello to everybody. Hopefully you're having a great conference and conversation. I'll just kind of go through just some different project types that we work on and collaborate with cities and counties on. Park planning, certainly we do park planning, regional park planning across the state, everywhere from War Road to Granite Falls and to the metro on a wide variety of park planning needs. Parks and Play, probably 90% of our work is work that is constructed. So large, this is the All Abilities Train Park in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Large community destination parks like Central Park in Maple Grove that has an outdoor skate loop, refrigerated outdoor skate loop, regional park planning like for Scott County at Spring Lake Regional Park, work for Lebanon Hills in Dakota County. One of the unique niches that our firm focuses in on is historic and cultural work. We do a lot of work with the Minnesota Department on Transportation on roadside rest areas. This is Grazer Park in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Projects like Waterworks. We're working on Mallard Island. We do a lot of cultural landscape reports for the State Historic Preservation Office on park planning. So that's a unique niche that our firm brings. And then certainly larger regional trails. We're working with Gina Hugo on the Greater Northern Trail that crosses over quite a few counties and cities, to smaller scale planning for like the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District. This is a small trail loop through some property that they purchased within the watershed. And then a lot of interpretive kinds of planning related to trails and open space. Art and placemaking is also something that we integrate into our work, whether it's working on projects like the Memorial to Survivors of Sexual Violence in Minneapolis. This is an interpretive splash pad for the city of Minnetonka at their Ridgedale Commons Park, which illustrates, it's a splash pad that illustrates the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District as it flows through the city of Minnetonka, and then some work with Dakota artists at Waterworks. And then certainly community engagement is a large part of what we do, not only engaging communities about parks and open space, but also putting together informational graphics that illustrate what that public engagement means for influencing design and communicating that to project stakeholders. And then just some upcoming projects that we're working on, the Grand Rounds Missing Link, which is the completion of the Grand Round system for the city of Minneapolis, the Minneapolis Park Board, working with the Minneapolis Park Board on 168 acre restoration, wetland restoration for the Hiawatha Golf Course in South Minneapolis, and then some smaller community parks, one for the city of St. Peter, Gorman Park, which is opening up in a week or two, and then some work on the Ice Age Trail in Wisconsin, a regional park plan. So just really appreciate all the work that all of you do to bring open space and parks to our communities, and look forward to partnering with you in the future. So I hope you have a great day today and a great conference.
Don't give Brad a minute to get the next slide up. How's lunch? Very good. There's still food left. Okay, so next, gonna get everybody's attention, and if you're up, getting seconds, thank you, because we don't want to take any back. But we'd like to take an opportunity now to pause kind of the business and presentation portion to honor Tom Felkowski. Tom, you met coming in and you've seen him probably every year at annual meetings. Tom has been a longtime board member serving as the treasurer for Greater Minnesota Parks and Trail. And I haven't had the opportunity to work with Tom very long, just a few years. A lot of you have known Tom a lot longer. But in the time that I've known and worked with Tom, I've been able to like kind of create a checklist of things I really appreciate about Tom. His integrity, his wit, his humor, his love of family and fishing, and his commitment to manual pedal bicycles. We have this camaraderie there. And so I just want to invite anyone else who's had an opportunity to work with Tom over the years to just share something that they appreciate about Tom, or a memory or a funny story. We're always open for funny stories, so. You can sit right where you are. Yes, it makes it far less intimidating.
So I've got to work with Tom a little bit longer than Gina. And I think what I had fun with was always living vicariously through him on our Zoom meetings, because he was always the one sitting in a Hawaiian shirt. Actual palm trees behind him, and we were always interested to see where's Tom.
On the veranda, evidently.
Yeah, some were nicer than we were in the cold winters, so, but like Gina said, I really appreciated his humor in our meetings and, his pure honesty and what he thought at all times. I think that's something to be proud of, so thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Carlin. Elizabeth.
I'd like to make a few comments, I think, because Tom has been the treasurer the entire time I've been working with the organization for over a decade, and just a couple things I appreciate about Tom. You know, some people retire and they just go play golf. Not Tom. Tom is like, no, I want to go be treasurer for a young fledgling organization that's barely been formed, that doesn't have a lot of money. And I want to take over their finances. And I cannot tell you how hard this man works and how organized he is. You know, again, we've grown from, I want to guess, like somewhere around 50 members to like 144, you know, and you know, it's not a huge budget, but that's just a lot of work. And he does that cheerfully. He does that without complaint. Just the sheer amount of work that he's done is just, and just so graciously, even though he's, again, retired. He's been retired the entire time I've known him. I also, again, you can't not recognize his wit. He is an extraordinarily humorous person. And then I'm not going to say which side of the political sphere he's on, but I very much enjoy the two of us who will often do back and forth, whether it be a text or talking on phone or an email about political topics. And he's always got a great take. And I think I will miss that the most about him is his political sense and what he brings in from his days, you know, growing up in Michigan and the Detroit area. How that sort of, you know, colors his views on politics. I think the political discussions are what I will miss the most with him as treasurer. So.
I will miss them too.
Yeah.
Anyone else? With that, if anyone else, Ben, I'm gonna put you on the spot. So Ben is not going to be on the board anymore. Really enjoyed working with him on the board. So I would like to invite Ben up to present Tom with his token of appreciation. Okay, Tom, come on up.
I may have worked with you the longest.
Probably.
In the room anyways, so 14, yeah.
Oh, granite?
Art, thank you for your dedication to the organization for the 10+ years, 14 probably is more accurate. We present you with this token for our appreciation.
We are going to, take it back with us and have this little, remedy.
Kind of gives a character.
Well, yeah, you could say that, or you could say, I think it could be sandblasted off. Well, okay, but no, thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
And we'll deliver it. So first some.
I didn't expect this, and thank you. You should probably all know that it wasn't all generosity why I'm here. Martin Mattice, who was one of the original members and moved from park administrator to administration in Wright County, and I continually give him grief over that. But he had to leave as treasurer because he went on to the commission. He couldn't be treasurer of this group, he didn't, they could be on the commission at the same time. And I had recently retired, so he called me, we were pretty good friends, and said, would you do this? And I said, But he said, well, you can pick mushrooms in Wright County parks until you die if you do this. So, all right, it seems like a fair enough. And that's why I'm here. There have been changes and, I'm not as modern as I should be with billing and insist on paper. And I think it's just time for somebody else to take on and bring you into the next 20 years, I hope. But thank you, I appreciate it, and it's been a pleasure. I've met more wonderful people than I could ever mention. And I was also joining so I could learn more about parks around the state now that I've got more time to enjoy them, so. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.
To celebrate. Oh, that, help yourself to cake at any time, it's mostly touch, but I didn't want to rush. Okay, so next, we're gonna move into our, next guest presenter, and. To that page. Thank you. You have the page, Brad?
Yes, I do.
So next, we have joining us, Randolph Riley. He's with Explore Minnesota. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. So I will let you take it away. As soon as you're ready.
Well, thanks. Super excited to be here. I'm with, I'm with Explore Minnesota. And you can go on to the next slide. Thank you. So for this talk, I just want to share a little bit about who am I? What is ORIP, which is a part of Explore Minnesota, which is the Outdoor Recreation Industry Partnership. It's actually a partnership of 4 agencies, the DNR, DE, Explore Minnesota, and IRRR. We do a lot of work when it comes to supporting Minnesota's outdoor recreation economy, which is the bulk of this presentation, which I wanted to talk about, just give a quick profile of Minnesota's outdoor economy, talk about a study that we just put out in late June on the economy, and maybe just wrap it up by talking about how we can work together, because there's a lot of intersections between our work. Because I was reading when I got here, I was reading the legislative policies 2026, and number 1, it says strong vibrant regional parks and trail system plays a vital role in the continued health and economic growth of greater Minnesota. And that's basically our mission, to support that economic growth. So with that, who am I? Randolph Riley. I live in Eden Prairie. I'm the director of ORIP, which is the Outdoor Recreation Industry Partnership, as I was mentioned. We've been around for about 2 years now. We celebrated our 2nd anniversary in September. It's been a good 2 years. I'm also the deputy director of Explore Minnesota as well. My portfolio focuses on outdoor recreation, at Explore Minnesota, which is a huge bulk of what we do. I mean, outdoor recreation is the main component of Explore Minnesota's focus and marketing. Because that's what people think about when they think about Minnesota. Previously, prior to this role, I was senior advisor at the DNR for 5 years. Before that, I worked on Capitol Hill in Washington DC for 11 years on the House side, and got a master's degree and my JD in natural resource law and policy from Vermont Law School. And before that, I was a snowboard tech and a fishing guide. So I've spent my entire career doing outdoor recreation, natural resource policy, and really excited to just wind up in Minnesota. This is where we're raising our two boys. For our oldest just started Eden Prairie High, which he's a little bit, it's one of the biggest high schools in the state, and he's a little bit intimidated by it. So it's been an interesting transition. But yeah, we can skip ahead. So what is the Outdoor Recreation Industry Partnership? Like I said, so it's basically 1, 2, 3, 4. We have one mission at the partnership. It's to support the growth of Minnesota's outdoor recreation economy. We aren't, the word support is really important here. We're not a regulatory body in any way. We don't create policies and things like that. We are just here to basically support the industry in the state. And when I say industry, I mean that in the broadest possible sense. The outdoor recreation industry in Minnesota is made up of 3 components, or made up of 3 sectors, which is the private industry, which everyone knows. It's the Shields and the Red Wing shoes and Lund boats. But it's also the public sector as well, so the DNR, Department of Interior, all those, and finally the nonprofit sector, which is where a lot of folks fall into. The outdoor recreation economy has 2 main components. It's the users and the producers. And so I bring that up because probably 95% of the work that we do at the Outdoor Recreation Industry Partnership is focused on the producer side of the economic trades. And so we work a lot with, our stakeholders we work with a lot are businesses, entrepreneurs, and workforce, job seekers in the outdoor recreation space. So we focus primarily on producers because that's where the gap was when it came to the outdoor recreation economy. There's lots of amazing organizations in the state that focus on users in the space, accessibility and that kind of thing. So we focus largely on the producer side of the economy. We have 3 strategic pillars that we follow in our work at the partnership. First is we create resources for these businesses, for these entrepreneurs. We developed, and we'll talk about it next. The economic impact report is one of those resources, but we also develop toolkits for the workforce and that kind of stuff. Build community is our second pillar. There's a lot of silos across the industry I just mentioned, even amongst the sectors themselves. So the private industry, you never see the folks from Vista or Federal Premium hanging out with the folks from Winona Canoe or Red Wing Shoes. And it's really our role to bring everyone to the same table in that outdoor industry space and to build that community, because when you have a strong community, that's when you can grow the economy. And we see that in various states that do this really well, like Colorado and places like that. They have a really strong community, and that's something that we focus a lot on. Finally, and this aligns with, I think, some of the work that you all do as well, is we communicate value. We communicate the value of the outdoor recreation and the outdoor economy. Our focus is largely on the economic side of that communication, but recognizing that economics is just a small portion of the value of outdoor recreation. I mean, you could have you've got health and wellness benefits, you've got educational outcomes and all those things, but we focus largely on the economic side. the jobs, the GDP, the tax revenue that accrues from outdoor activities. And as I mentioned, we're 4 agencies strong right now, the DNR, DEED, IRRR, Explore Minnesota. We formed via an MOU that maintained flexibility, so that could change. We could add agencies as we continue to kind of grow throughout these years. I'd love to have the Department of Transportation on this team. I'd love to have the Minnesota Department of Health, because both those areas are incredibly important to the work that we do. So that's just a quick kind of snapshot of what the Outdoor Recreation Industry Partnership is. And so I will move into kind of the main part of this, and we wanted to talk about the economic impact reports. So the Outdoor Industry Economic Impact Report, we released that in June. We worked with a team called RRC Associates from, I think they're from Bozeman, Montana, but they've done this for a number of states, creating these kind of comprehensive outdoor recreation economic impact reports. And so we worked with them. They released it in June. The numbers of these, the basis of this report is the Bureau of Economic Analysis numbers that they put out every November. So these numbers come from the federal government, they come from the Bureau of Economic Analysis. And if you're not aware, the BEA puts out their report every November, usually about a week before Thanksgiving. And it tells you, it looks at the national level, so it tells you how much GDP, how much gross output, how many jobs are at the national level for the outdoor economy. But it also breaks it down into the state level, so it tells you that state side. And those numbers usually lag about a year. So 2024, we got 2023 numbers. So this year we'll get 2024 numbers. And we're eagerly awaiting that for this November. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the shutdown won't impact us getting that numbers anyway, but we'll see. But when you look at that report, it's a really good report. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. You can go to the VA's website. But there's really 2 glaring omissions from that report that we really wanted to fill, gaps that we wanted to fill by creating our own report. We wanted to be able to demonstrate a number for gross output at the state level, because the feds only provide us with GDP. And so that's a much narrower set of economic numbers than gross output. Gross output is pretty much all the cells that go into developing a product or service, whereas GDP is usually the final. And so we wanted to develop a gross output number for the state, so we could use that when we have our conversations about the economic impact. But the most important thing we wanted to do was create county level data for the state, based on the BEA numbers, because that's something they didn't provide and they don't provide. They don't break down their numbers by county. And so we figured if we want to tell the story of the value of outdoor recreation in the state, we really needed to be able to communicate that at the county level, because it makes much more impact to folks, to decision makers. When you tell them how many jobs and how much GDP that the outdoor recreation economy brings in their county, it makes much bigger impact than when you tell them statewide. So we really wanted that county level data, and they managed to develop a methodology to give that to us, which we're really excited about. We're the only state that I'm aware of right now in the entire nation that breaks down the numbers in the county level, which is exciting to be the first to do that. We're not going to be the last, because there's a lot of folks saying, hey, we can do that. And so there's a lot of states who want to follow this same path. So I'm sure we'll see that. But we have the county level data now, which is exciting. The goal for this report, I think, our goal for this report is to update it every January. As I mentioned, it's based on the BEA numbers. So as long as the BEA numbers come out, we've got the methodology. We're able to input those numbers into our model and spit out a new report. every year. And so our goal is to update it every January so that everyone knows where we're at going into conversations at the Capitol when it comes to outdoor recreation investments. And so just to give you a snapshot of where the numbers are, where we're at, these numbers, nationally, outdoor recreation, I think last year was the first year we topped $1 trillion as an industry at $1.3 trillion as an industry, which is huge. That's bigger than oil and gas. It's bigger than pharmaceuticals. It's bigger than the automotive industry. It's a gigantic industry for the United States. And so that was kind of the headline number that came out of the report last year, the BEA report. As far as gross output for Minnesota, I mentioned we really wanted that gross output number. We're at 23.5 billion gross output in Minnesota, which is it's a significant number. We're at 11.6 billion for GDP, which I think is the highest level for GDP of any natural resource oriented industry in the state. So it's higher than ag, it's higher than forestry, it's higher than mining, it's higher than oil and gas. The 11.6 billion is significant. It's nowhere near some of the major industries in the state, like financial service or IT or healthcare. Those are in the 50 to 100 billion zone, but it's still a significant percentage. For tourism, so this is different. So this is the outdoor recreation economic impact. If you're looking at tourism economic impact, they're two different things. There's a lot of overlap between the two, obviously, but they don't completely align. I think the tourism economy is 14.5 billion or something like that. So it's higher than the outdoor rec, but it takes into account lots of other activities that aren't outdoor recreation oriented. And so it's still a pretty big number. And then we are at about 96,000 direct jobs for the outdoor recreation sector in Minnesota. And this is a shortcoming of the Bureau of Economic Analysis, because the Bureau of Economic Analysis doesn't include sole proprietors in their numbers, which is a significant portion of the folks that work in outdoor rec. So those numbers are actually much higher than that. But the BEA, for whatever reason, they've decided they don't include sole proprietors in their impact numbers. So yeah, just so kind of to give you a kind of a glimpse of where we stand in the upper Midwest. We're at 2.8% of Minnesota's GDP is outdoor recreation, and roughly 96,000 jobs, as I mentioned. So we have the highest percent of GDP for outdoor recreation in the entire upper Midwest, which we're excited and hope to maintain that leading edge. We top out above South Dakota and Wisconsin, who are probably the next two closest to us. 95,000 is pretty significant number. The reason why you see higher numbers in Wisconsin and Michigan is because Wisconsin has a larger population than Minnesota, and Michigan has almost double the population of Minnesota. So that's why you see those, but it's still, it's great to see Minnesota leading the way when it comes to the upper Midwest and outdoor recreation, which is one of the reasons why I think we just put out we put out the press release last week that one of the largest outdoor recreation industry trade shows has decided to move to Minneapolis permanently, which we're really excited about. It's the Outdoor Retailer. They have been home. They've been based out of Salt Lake City for half a decade now. Before that, they were in Colorado. They've decided they want to move more central US, and they decided Minnesota was the place to go because of the strength of our outdoor recreation economy, but as well as the strength of all of our built infrastructure that we have in the state for parks and trails and that kind of thing. So, and that's what they told us, and it's really exciting because there's really three major trade shows. When you're talking outdoor recreation, there's three major trade shows. There's the SHOT Show, which is in Vegas, which is hunting and shooting. There's the ICAST show, which is down in Florida, I think. And And then there's OR, outdoor retailer, which is the quote unquote kind of silent sport show. It's hiking, it's camping, it's biking, it's paddling. It's all those things. So we're really excited to be the home of outdoor retailer for the foreseeable future. And it really kind of demonstrates how important the outdoor industry is to Minnesota as a state. So we're excited about that. So this kind of gives you an example. If you have time to take a look at the report, you'll see this is the county by county breakdown that we have. Every county, we've got all 87 counties. This is just an example that I want to show. This is the metro area. So you've got Hennepin, Dakota. Yeah.
It's the SMSA.
There's a few of them that need to get moved out of the metro. There can be a discussion later.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean metro. This is the central region. Yeah. This is the central region. But yeah, you'll see, I mean, we've got numbers for the jobs supported in each county. We've got the numbers for the outdoor recreation value added, which is GDP, the economic output, which is the gross output, and then proportion of jobs and then proportion of GDP for each county. So it's really useful when you're talking to, I guess, civic leaders or folks that are making decisions on how to invest. You're able to show them. You're able to say in Scott County, there's over 3,000 jobs that are supported by outdoor recreation, by parks, by trails, by the bike shops, and you name it, and boat launches. So it's a handy guide. It's broken up, I think, into 5 different regions. Those regions largely align with Explore Minnesota's regions, which are Northwest, Northeast, Central, Southwest, Southeast, kind of thing. And so yeah, if you have a chance to check it out, go online, you can check it out. I think I've got the next slide coming up is there's a link to it. I'll show you the website on the next slide. But this one is just how can we use this data? How can this data be used? Because it is a tool, it's a resource. So the way we use it, Explore, one of the ways we use it, Explore, is to attract, encourage investment in the state. Because Explore has an entire new division, along with the Outdoor Recreation Partnership. We have a Explore Minnesota for Business, which is our business attraction unit that we have in Minnesota, Explore, and that's new just last year. And so we do a lot of work trying to attract and encourage investment. So it's businesses that want to move to the state. It's gigantic outdoor trade shows that want to relocate to Minnesota. And so that's one of the ways we use this data. We also use it to support existing Minnesota businesses and entrepreneurs tied to recreation in ways by creating more resources with them and allowing them to use these resources as they're making their determinations on where to invest. And then it also helps folks, and this is outside kind of our area of expertise, but it falls more into kind of the DNR space and things like that. But it helps folks plan for more equitable, inclusive access to benefits reach all the communities in the state, which I think I saw you mentioned on your legislative priorities. I'm not sure which one it was, but so that's another way that this data can be used. Because the report itself is not just economic data. That's the bulk of the report. But the report also does a comprehensive public lands inventory. So it shows you where all the public lands are across the state. And so by putting that public lands inventory next to the economic impact numbers, you're able to see how the two intersect with one another. So you'll see the areas of the state that have the most public lands, the most investment in public lands tend to be the ones that have the highest economic impact from the outdoor recreation industry. So that's just another thing the report can do. And finally, we take a look at some of the non-economic values in the outdoor recreation, which are probably the most valuable aspects of outdoor recreation, which is the health and wellness benefits of outdoor recreation, the educational outcomes you name it. So The report is much more than just the economic numbers, but that's tends to be the heart of the report, so. Ways in which I think that we can work together, communicating value is important, and our top line message that we have at the Outdoor Recreation Industry Partnership is that recreation is critical. So for years and years and years, you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Outdoor recreation has been seated up there at the kind of self-actualization level, the amenity. It was an amenity. It's something to get to after everything else has been taken care of. But coming out of the pandemic, there's been a significant shift in the public perception of the value of outdoor recreation. So this actually dropped down Maslow's hierarchy needs so that it fits more in the kind of physiological needs space. And so that's something that we're really leaning into, is that outdoor recreation is not an amenity, it's critical infrastructure. It's just as critical, parks and trails is just as critical as roads and hospitals and bridges. And so so this report and the work we do at OREP can help tell that story. And I think it's something that we share with the group here is demonstrating the critical value and that perspective for outdoor recreation. And then probably the most important thing we do at OREP is the building community side. And so there's a huge need between when I talk about breaking down silos, there's a huge need between connecting industry, and in this sense, I'm talking largely private industry with infrastructure and folks that build infrastructure. We need to have better relationships between the Polarises and the Winnebagos and the Red Wing Shoes and local parks and trails places. And so that's one of the things I think we can work on, because we've got the business side, we've got the industry side relationships, but you all work closely with building the infrastructure in parks and trails, and I think there's lots of opportunity for us to connect those two dots together in ways. And so finally, the last thing I wanted to mention, you can find all this stuff at our website, which is outdoorindustrypartnership.com. It's got my contact information. You can sign up for a monthly newsletter. We have a bi-weekly podcast you can listen to. It's got the report is on there. There's a couple webinars on there. So it's a resource you can tap into if you're interested in more of this. So yeah, I think that concludes my remarks. I've got 4 minutes if you got any questions, I think.
Awesome. So yeah, we do have a few minutes for questions, so I'll open it up. If anyone has questions for me.
More of a comment. I've been following your Explore Minnesota More podcast. It's 2024. If you want a more detailed by the numbers, understanding Minnesota's outdoor recreation economy, you can hear this detailed report on their podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, next week we're doing next week's episode is on getting pheasant hunters. So I mean it's pheasant hunting season, so.
You mentioned wanting to get DOT involved. Why aren't they?
Oh, we really haven't. I think we've just been laying this foundation in the first few years, and so we set out this plan for the first 2 years, we were going to just lay the foundation, build out all the kind of what you need to have kind of this pseudo agency kind of thing. And then for the next 5 years, we're currently we're in the process of developing a 5-year strategic plan for this work. And so once we have that, and once we have where we want to go, I think we're going to do a lot more working with attracting agencies into this kind of space that we want to work with. I'd love to also have the Department of Education, because educational outcome and the importance of outdoor recreation with education is so important, or just a big deal for us. So that's just another. So yeah, we're working on it. Hopefully we'll get it in the next few years. So yeah.
Okay, any questions online?
See.
Well, thank you so much. Wonderful, yeah, big thanks for that. So now I'm gonna call Senator Burr and Senator Lane to the front, and I will need two chairs, or three chairs, with bring a chair up for you. These are not fancy chairs.
Sorry.
Originally, it was built as a panel, but we decided, given the cold weather, this is going to be a fireside chat, but you have to imagine that there's a fire here, okay? You know, pretend we're in a cozy Northwoods, event, and I'm going to be letting, I should say, Gina is going to be moderating, but I'm going to do the introductions here. So first we have Senator Kerr, who has been a senator, he's from St. Paul, since 2012. I forgot that you were elected. It's been a while. And I'll let him talk about his own relationships with the outdoors, but he is, has been for the last 3 years, the chair of the Senate Environment and Legacy Committee. Unlike the House, which has separate committees, they actually have an Environment and Legacy Committee. You know, very engaged on that. And so, and I'll let him talk about his background a little more. And then next to him is actually the senator for this area, but we didn't ask him that for that reason. He's got a couple of cool credentials to his name, but I think perhaps the most significant is I think he's the only member of the legislature who was at one point a member of this organization. Yeah. You know? He has a, when I say he has a strong background in Parks and Rec, I'm not kidding. It was Brent. Was with Brendel County Parks before becoming elected, but he has not let that sort of vision of the importance of outdoor recreation go when he's been in the legislature. He's been the author several times of the outdoor, is it called the Outdoor Heritage Bill or the SAR? I never know what to call it.
Both, yeah.
Both. Author of several of bills with the Lassard Sam's Outdoor Heritage. He and Senator Kerr are still on the Lassard Sam's commission, which does, it's, I would say, you know, it is not something we focus on quite as much, but I also know that quite a few of our members, including I think both you've received, haven't you received grants from them? I think Ben has, other folks, and it's something that honestly we probably should be paying more attention to. Yeah, so we'll ask some questions about that, but we want to keep this, honestly, it would be hard to pick two legislators who are more sort of engaged and understanding both of the issues, but also why outdoor recreation is important. And so we're excited to have them. Now I'm going to hand it off to Gina. Sorry. Yeah. All right. So these questions were prepared for me, and I might have to just kind of pause and riff a little bit because I'm gonna invite you both to respond. So our first question for today's fireside chat, I feel like we need a pipe or something. Is for Representative Kerr. And I want to ask you, why did you decide to become a legislator?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I was a videographer, a cameraman by trade, and you know, as an artist by trade. I have the gift of visual memories, and when I observe my district, the demographic changed quite a bit. Right now is beyond my expectation. So I also have the skill that I can break between different subcultures. There's a lot of diversity in my district. So I said, well, maybe it's my time to run because the one that represent me at that time didn't quite understand the emerging communities that as a cameraman myself know a little bit more. Although maybe I'm short of policy, but I think I can be the voice of the people of my district. So that's one thing that motivated me, and arts and culture is one important aspect. I'm also enjoy the great Minnesota outdoors. And so I said, when I get to the Senate, I'm gonna join the environment committee. So that's, you know, three point that is to your question. Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Thank you. And how many years have you been serving?
like, I got elected at 2012, so almost, yeah. I know, 13 years, yeah.
Great, thank you. And Senator Lane.
Why did I want to get elected? Well, I didn't. It was never, one of those bucket list items. It never was. I never really thought about it, to be honest. I grew up in Wilmer, graduated from high school here, went to college, joined the Army right after college, kind of was doing my Army deal. Working for a family business, and I ended up working for Renville County. Who's from Renville County here?
Jesse was here, but he left.
Oh, I saw the picture. Well,
Oh, yeah, Jess is here.
she's from the Renville County city. But I was actually the park supervisor down there at the time. I had just gotten back from my second appointment, and I really was never politically active whatsoever. I mean, I voted, but that was about it. Paid attention to some of the hot list items, but was approached to run and initially said no. I don't think so. I want to put myself through that because we have a fairly large district here. At the time, it was 4 entire counties, about 5,300 square miles, 34 towns, 34 parades.
Did you do them all?
I did them all one time. So,
That's impressive.
yeah, and I was working at the county at the time. So it was, 5 AM going to work, leaving at 3, going and knocking doors, doing all that thing. And when it came to election time, I'm still gonna get beat, in my mind, I thought for sure. Well, that was a fun adventure. Let's never do that again. But yeah, it's been 9 years for me already. Which the time flies. When you get into St. Paul, you get into the politics is one thing, but there's actually something that most of the public doesn't see is the actual, gosh dang, it's a lot of work. We spend a lot of time, these are easy because we can just chat and talk and do whatever, but we spend a lot of time making policy, having meetings with certain citizens or concerned lobbyists, Elizabeth. For whatever the topic may be, and all of a sudden you have to be somewhat of an expert on everything. Everything from parks and trails, which is my alley, to medical devices, which I don't know anything about, but you have to get smart quick. But yeah, so for me, I was the Renville County Park Supervisor for, I don't even know how many years, 8, 9 years, I think it was. After I got elected, I worked there for 1 year. So we were the recipient of a LaSalle Sands grant through the CPL process, if anybody knows what that is. It's a subset of LaSalle Sands. That's 1/3 of the legacy dollars. It represents about $165 million a year that's up for grabs. You just have to be willing to apply. Telling you that now, Elizabeth mentioned that because every time we go to a meeting, I'm mentioning like, hey, I'd like to see some more county projects in here. So spent 2 years on a LaSalle Sands project. Land acquisition, prairie restoration, so worked hard on that. Still there. If Jesse was here, I'd say I'm taking care of it, so.
How many times have you burned it?
Oh, well, it took 2 years to plant, so it was
How many acres?
It was about, well, there was 2 different plantings, but the main area, the process to get that seed and continue tillage and packing and tillage and packing and then drill seeding, and it turned out great.
Good.
But of course, it was after I left. I drive through there now, I'm like. Yeah, so I've been on LaSalle Sands for 8 of the 9 years I've been in. I think we range anywhere from 100, and I think the lowest I ever saw was about $118 million of tax revenue. And this year was about 165. We fund anywhere from on the low end 30 projects to 45, 50 projects, depending on what the applications look like. And I will tell you that most of those projects through LaSalle Sands are repeat customers, right? The Ducks Unlimited, the Pheasants Forever's, the Metro Big Rivers, like all those big names. But some of the ones that get highly funded are those smaller Shakopee Creek, northern part of Canyon County. Canyon County SWCD came over the project. It was not awarded the first year, came back the second year, had to have a big project going now, Shakopee Creek Restoration, so. It's out there, just saying, apply for it. I can't tell you to do it, but do it. But yeah, so in the legislature, so Lassard Sands is year round. In the legislature, I'm heavily involved in transportation, sit on the transportation committee, I'm on the environment committee. I've been very involved in ag committees over the years, kind of in and on and off the ag committee, and then big time into vets. So I was the chair of vets for 4 years, and been in the Minnesota Guard for 24 already. So very passionate about that as well. So, yeah, it's good. Thanks for having me.
Let's do it. So thank you.
It's a fire chat, right? So, how many parade?
34.
34.
Well, and it's funny because one little town out western Minnesota doesn't have a parade. They don't allow political floats, which I appreciate. But they make up for it because there's another town that does 2 celebrations.
I just want to say that I don't envy the 34 parade at all. I only have 1 parade in the district. And after COVID-19, we stopped parade completely. We still anticipate that there will be 1 future parade coming. But then there are at least 48 culture bubble that is even more difficult than driving 2 hours to each. That's a challenge.
Yes.
But earlier I said, in 2012, I decided to run for office because of changing demographic, and now my city council, both city council and House of Representatives, interestingly, are from my culture, which is Hmong, refugee from Laos in 1975. So it went faster than I ever expected. I was the only AAPI or Hmong legislator for quite a period of time until now, just, through both my House Representative, both my city council. And so things have changed more than I anticipated.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a long question, wasn't it?
That's okay. That's okay.
It's kind of nice having this format to get much more honest and open answers, to be honest, than we do at our say CGMC forum, so this is great, so thank you.
Yeah. So, Senator Hurd, as the chair of the Environment Committee, you are responsible for quite a number of agencies, like NPCA, DNR, Bowser, and more. Yet the budget doesn't always grow from year to year. How do you balance all of the competing environmental issues, whether it's pollution protection, environmental cleanup, or outdoor recreation? That's a big question.
Yeah.
We should have given these to you ahead of time.
Okay.
And you would have got the politician answer.
Yeah. But it's important, it's based on people coming to see me and express important, MCCA and our agency has always been there, but, Sarah Lee and I have constant communication. He served in Lassard Sands, a few years before that I may outnumber him in terms of number of years, but in terms of serving in LCCMR and Lassard Sands Outdoor Heritage, he outnumbered me because I was appointed to those committees as a chair. And so when you become minority, then someone picked you. But when you're majority, then as a chair or kind of like allowed to, unless you wanted to, right? So now as a chair, I do have conversation with my counterpart on the other side of the aisle, and also my assistant or my vice chair, to see the compilation of our committee, to make up our committee what's important, where to put more resource in, and where to delay the resource till the next biennium.
You. So next question, I'm gonna. Right, Senator Lang to answer first. Is there one thing that you would like our members, Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails, to think about as we develop our parks and trails for the future.
Ugh, that's a good one. You know,
Especially with your-
yeah, I probably am a little more all encompassing than some. There's always this, there's always an adversarial atmosphere at the Capitol. Well, on political standpoint, for one thing, for sure. But over the years, it's like, sometimes you see an agency like the DNR or MPCA or whatever it may be, take an adversarial position against. Not necessarily parks and trails, but as of recent, Minnesota, like the ATV culture within the state of Minnesota has been on a rapid rise, and you can see it in the numbers from the park revenue. You can see it. And we just had a presentation about GDP and things like that. When you go to Wisconsin, that system of hiking trails, biking trails, and ATV trails is so intertwined. And I think Minnesota is kind of just on the cusp of like getting to that when it comes to that Northern Corridor trail system. There are counties and municipalities throughout the state that have said no. I think that's a loss. And that's one aspect. As far as your organization goes, like I said, I think LaSarge Sams is obviously we're pretty weird when it comes to what trails we allow, if there's existing trail systems. There's a lot of rules and regulations that go along with that. When it comes to a county, or if there's CPL grants in particular, there's a little more leeway the way it seems when you do some of those things. And I think are they set at 600,000 now and below, aren't they? I think it went from 500 to 600 a couple of years ago. But there's a significant amount of money that's in that, on an annual basis, and that's all constitutionally dedicated, it has to be spent. So if you're on the application list and there's, just saying, it has to be spent. And there's a lot of big organizations that have $20 million hanging that they haven't been able to spend yet. And the council as a whole has paid attention to that. And I think as of recent, the council is like, okay, guys, you're here for phase 17. You have $20 million hanging from the last 3 phases. We want to see that spent before we award you anymore. That opens the door for a lot. Be smart about how you apply, be smart about how you face it. It's always scalable. Remember that. So, but yeah, the organization as a whole, I think you guys are doing well. When it comes to dedicated funding, it's always a little difficult. I had a group that I was talking to just the other day about dedicated funding. It's like, well, here's an avenue. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's being about as specific as I can by eBay.
Thank you.
I just want to add that, in terms of park control or trail community, also consider the upgrade of sustainability of trail. And I talked to the DNR about the trail. Usually we have a lot of funding for building trails, but we are shortfall on, and they have not been appropriation on upgrading, and that has been a discussion as we just recently, or the citizens just voted to approve the environmental trust fund. It's some 70%, voter approval. We did have discussion on that to put some, priority on improving or upgrade existing park and trail.
Beautiful.
So I would say for now, if there's future trail coming out, you can think in long term about the sustainability of the trail and also the improving.
Well, that's music to our ears.
Well, and that is, we do talk about that as far as the legacy amendment goes, right? The way it's written, where everybody voted on restore, enhance, protect, right? What exactly does that mean? That's our job to try and establish what restore, enhance, protect means. But for me, restore and enhance and protect one, have what you have, make sure that it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Restoring, I think it's not just taking a field and turning it back into a prairie. It's taking that trail that's falling apart and fixing it, right? I don't know, and I think not just Lassard, but I think, you know, the other Arts Cultural Heritage for that matter, or well, even LCCMR, I think has kind of turned that corner where someone the project, Clean Water is the same way, where they have said, okay, let's just start taking care of what we have to.
So there've been nearly 9 legislative cycles of legacy funding. Greater Minnesota's received a portion of these funds for the last 8. In your perception, has the money been well spent? Are you receiving information that you need to know to even answer that question?
I'd like to receive information.
Yeah.
As a chair, I have not received much information about it. So I'd like to know more. And I'd like to hear more from this group, and perhaps this into the capital. But Mary Lane's here, so.
Yeah.
There's 2 parts of that.
So yeah, has the money been well spent?
Oh, okay.
And have you been receiving the information you need to even be able to answer that question?
I think the answer is slowly. It is truly how it has gone. And again, I know Lassard and Sam's better than most. As far as how the procedure works. Over the years, our process, there was no, when it was first established in 2008, it was, here's what we're gonna do. And then you start getting into the process, you realize that, hey, some of these folks haven't been spending the dollars that, or they changed the way they were gonna spend them. And there was no law or there was no regulation within Lassard Sam's that said that they had to follow suit. So especially, I would say over the last 5-6 years, the council as a whole has been much more, we want to have a report, you know, we have a outcomes report that comes back to us that has become more and more detailed over the years, and we've become more and more adept at like taking sort of numbers, finding out if they're doing what they said they were gonna do on their application. The DNR actually has found itself, is there anybody from the DNR?
There was.
Yeah, okay. They found themselves in a little hot water with the council for how they were spending money, changing where it went, and I think that's good. I mean, not that they did it, but that we caught them and they fixed it, so. So yeah, but I overall, money well spent, yes, we're getting better at it. And that goes for all the councils, I think, too. Lassard, Clean Water, LCCMR. Yeah, I think so. It is not an easy process. There is a lot of hoops to jump through to get the money. There's a lot of hoops through to get the money out to the people. And then there's a lot of hoops when you get to the end of it to make sure they're doing what was said. And there's not just a big pot of money someplace in earning interest, so.
And there's organizations that, you know, continue to have base 7 or 8 and 9, and as a member of Lassard Sam, you know, Sarah and Lane and I are concurrent that we want to be accountable. We keep asking questions, and, you know, to see why is it still reoccurring. But that, you know, I mean, to hear them present and during the testimony that is justifiable on the repeating face of their proposal.
Okay.
Hey, Gina.
Yeah.
Just a success story. You're talking about, you know, some of the bigger organizations, and I'm bad enough on Stern County Parks, so pretty local to the area here, but a success story on some of the bigger organizations like Pheasants Forever applying for those dollars. So we had a 250 acre chunk park parcel right off the Chino Lakes that came for sale, $2.8 million property. Because Stearns County's not gonna put up full funds, 2.8 to do that. Pheasants Forever was at a grant through the LSOHC for acquisition along Sauk River Watershed District. Sauk River that runs down in Mississippi. They leveraged 1.9 million of those funds to get a $500,000 community donation. And the county put in a little over 300,000. So Stearns County taxpayers essentially paid $300,000 for a $2.8 million property. Caveat has to go to hunting and fishing, which is a new venture for us, but not, so far it's been a good venture.
And then they turn it into WMA, SNA.
No, it's county-owned property, not a WMA. It's actually owned by Stearns County.
Okay.
After Pheasants Forever purchased it, they then donated it back to Stearns County. So it's a county-owned property. Like I said, a new venture for us. You don't typically see hunting within county park systems.
Yeah.
But so far, we're, 3 months into it? Asking another year.
Oh, we crossed that path when I was there as well, so. And I would tell you that, the council, over the years, we do spend a lot of money on, private land easements with RIM, CREP and CRP. But that open to public is a very important thing for the council, so, and unless otherwise stated, any of the property that's purchased that way, there can be some stipulations for hunting, but the easiest way to do it is make it open to public hunting, fishing, recreation. That is the filter, which all of you in the room kind of likes. So it's easy to say.
So we've got about 5 minutes. I'm gonna do one last kind of fun, easy, less policy kind of question, and then if we have another minute, we can invite questions from the audience. So I'll go to Senator Her first. What is your favorite outdoor activity?
Oh, I thought we had a hard one.
We start out hard and then we get easy.
Oh, go ahead. I love fishing and hunting.
What kind of hunting?
For venison, deer hunting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the season right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good. And then what's your favorite park or trail in Minnesota?
Oh, okay, all right.
Maybe you need a minute?
Well, I love the east side where I live. So
Okay.
Battle Creek and the, let's see, the Phelan, Peller and Phelan is a part of my favorite, so I walk, I hike, mountain bike sometime, and also, canoe along the Phelan chain of lake. There's, I think, 4 or 5 lakes connected together, and, starting from Coleman Lake to the Jarvis Lake and Round Lake until we reach Phelan Lake. Phelan Lake is one of 2 largest lake, I think maybe in the metro, yeah, so.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's the end, and the coming up is they will plan to daylight the Phelan Lake Creek, so it's more visible connecting Phelan to Mississippi, which has been there. The creek was there, but it was covered during our development of industry era and putting underground, so that's coming. Yeah.
That'd be beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Senator
My
Harrison?
outdoor activities.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a big hunter. If anybody walked past my truck, they've probably seen only one in there. Last weekend. Yeah, I do a lot of ice fishing in the winter. I don't get out in the summer. After my first deployment, I took a year off of work, and I was proud to say I had 300 days in the field that year. And now if I can get to 10% of that, I would be happy, but it's tough with the schedule I take. So I have 2 boys, and they're both very, very active. They bow hunted and pheasant hunted last weekend. There was an early rifle hunt in Wisconsin, so they were kind of all over the place. Yeah, there isn't much in the outdoors that we don't do. A lot of ATV and a lot of fishing. My kids, they have 2 boats, so they're on the water quite a bit. We spend a lot of time up by Park Rapids, and I own a chunk of property up north of Bemidji, about an hour or so. And I haven't been there since New Year's, which is bears. But my favorite part, wow, that is, I'm a little biased towards Renville County parks, because if you haven't been down there, you know, 6 of the 7 parks are in the river valley. And there's a couple of them that are, there's one that still kind of eggs me because Beaver Falls, anybody knows where that is? It's right on the Minnesota, well, it's a tributary to the Minnesota River. Beaver Creek actually runs right past my house 15 miles away, and you can get there by the creek. But Beaver Falls technically is on private property. And I was trying to work a land swap deal because they were farming some of the park on accident. And I thought, why don't you just keep that property farmed and we can do a land swap deal, we'll get the falls and put it in the park. And that never happened. So someday my retirement job is gonna happen.
You don't ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see the falls from public property and there might be a trail. Certainly, it's always hurt me that you can't technically get to the falls, so. Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. Are there any burning questions, from guests today?
Come on, fair chance. Like again, you've got the chair of, the environment and action center Lane is the lead on state and local gov, which is also an important, committee for many of you, because you're all, for the most part, county local governments, but just, somebody have a question?
I'll shoot my mouth off. You've been in the legislature a while, and depending on your news source, either you're getting along very well or civil war is about to break out.
Yeah. That's both true.
Over your time, do you think collegiality between the parties has gotten better or worse?
Well, I think we get along.
Yeah. I would say this is, I'll frame it the way of a story. So I was first elected in 2016, went to the legislature in January 17. I was the only senator to have a roommate. And my roommate is from the Faribault area. And he's kind of a happy-go-lucky guy. And Senator Tom Sony was in the legislature. I didn't know, right? Like being willfully ignorant is kind of a good thing sometimes. So my sort of a friendship, and we went out for drinks, and he goes, "Do you want to go have drinks with them?" I said, "Can we do that? Can we look at all of the Democrats?" I'm sorry, he's a Democrat. He's a Democrat from the range. He passed away a couple of years ago now. It's, he brought us up and says, "No, I kind of was nervous about him. I asked him a question and he said, calm down, Jesus. You gotta realize there's about 6 crazy people on both sides. You gotta realize that. Stay away from those people and you're gonna be fine." It was, you know, it was in jest at the time, but I would say that over the last few years, there's been a less and less of that. There, you know, maybe that's a fault on my part too, where probably push a little harder to, you know, take a Democrat for dinner, but, also, there has been, you know, outside forces too. The federal government is constantly throwing curveballs our way, on both sides. And I think that, you know, take for example, this district was a Democratic district since the 50s, more or less. Largely, I mean, and thus why I thought I was going to lose. But the demographics haven't changed necessarily. The people's priorities haven't changed. The parties for sure have on both sides of the aisle. There is extremes. I don't know, for the most part, on a day-to-day basis, if, you know, we're all kind of aiming for the same things. It's just, how do we get there, you know? And it's probably a blend of a little bit of everything, so. I don't know, maybe
I
it's.
guess the question is, are you optimistic that things are gonna get better?
Perpetually. Yeah. That was deep, wasn't it? Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm an optimistic person, so I'll try to work at it, you know, so. Yeah, I mean, 12 years ago, I should say, I'm new to politics. 12 years ago, now, I'm seasoned, but prior to joining politics, I observed, previous, eons ago politicians where people sit down together and negotiate, and these day and age is more polarized, which is not my philosophy. I don't know, in the first 4 years, my freshman and even the second year, maybe because of responsibility, I'm not a chair yet, and I have a little bit more time. So we have time going out, just like Senator Lamb said, we will even try to develop a purple caucus, or, have time to go out with your colleague, but I would say within the last 2 sessions. And I also, we have an epidemic that is also to blame as well. That they kind of put us into indoor and using Zoom. And so, face to face, or in-person engagement is getting less. But it has to be within ourselves, whether we want to engage. Well, I think that's the wrong word, engage, but whether we want to converse and be face to face with our neighbors or our colleagues, and I think as a society we have not done that for quite some time. We just read everything off the social media or the news. So my days prior to politics is like I watch days of Hubert Humphrey or Mondale, or let's say latest one. Even Bush Singer, I see they all talk to each other. Reagan, they all talk to each other. But it's interesting time. But I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that we have to see the worst before we come back to where we are. And maybe I'm new at this. I'm kind of still see myself young, although I'm near going to my 60 very, very soon. I like to have people to come together, but maybe I'm a rare species, but I like to be optimistic and encouraging people to work together. If I can be a little philosophical.
I'd love it.
I'm not getting both out of here. But a good friend told me that each of us come with a spirit, and the bad spirit always encourage people to divide, and a good spirit will always encourage unity. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. And I just want to say, I really appreciate the approachability you both carry with you. That goes a long way, and just encourage you to keep that up, because that will foster this communication and coming together, because it just has been delightful to visit with both of you, and I don't even feel like I have an audience. Really nice. So I think we'll wrap it up there, but I just would like to give them a round of applause. Great to meet you.
Yeah.
So that kind of concludes like a major portion of our meeting, but we're not done yet. Because I don't know if it's raining out or not.
It is.
But we have Kirkland Kyle here from the city of Wilmer. And we're at Robbins Island Regional Park, and this park, the improvements here were funded through Legacy. And this is evidently a pretty amazing accessible playground that I'm really disappointed we don't get to go walk around, but I think some of us might brave it anyway at the end.
There's gonna be no kids in there, so.
Yeah,
right.
But I'm gonna just turn it over to the two of you to talk about the park and the improvements that you've done, and just thank you for hosting us.
Sure, I
It's been
think-
great.
Obviously, most of you know Rob, he couldn't make it here today, so last second, he asked Kyle and myself to, kind of just do a short presentation, so I threw together some bullet points. Basically, kind of covers since I've been hired from the city of Wilmer, so I started in '99 as a public works operator. About 5 years ago, I got the project manager position, and Kyle is the public works superintendent, so. So back in '99, this park is approximately 55 acres, just this Robbins Island. I think the whole regional park with some other parks that are bordering this area is 120 some acres. That's how we got the regional status, but back in '99, I remember coming out here and it really wasn't a desirable place. The views were great, but we had some undesirable things happening back in the parking lots, back in the shaded areas and whatnot.
Not about when Kyle graduated.
So, it was been like that, until about 2007. In 2007, we had a group of disc golfers reach out to us and they wanted to put in an 18-hole golf course out here. So they designed it with the help of city, they helped fund it. And with that project, brought a lot more people coming out to the park, coming from other areas, even just our local golfers. And when people are walking through the trees and the trails and whatnot, walking past cars in the parking lot, those undesirable riffraff, lack of a better term, people decided it's not a good place to hang out. So that was like the turning point, I think, was good for Robbins Island. About 10 years later, we had a group of people that came up with the idea for this destination playground. So it's about a $1 million project that was privately funded, so no tax dollars. It was a Vision 2040. We had a group here in town. The city of Wilmer collaborated with Leathers and Associates. I don't know if anybody's ever worked with them, but they are playground builder out of New York, I believe. So they helped design this playground. It was all a community volunteer build. It took 11 days to build it. Just about 3,800 volunteers throughout the community helped with that. So, and we had to deal with some real crappy weather. But it turned out to be great. We have people traveling hours come up and use this park, and it's fully accessible, ADA compliant. I think at the time I read that it is the largest, at that time in 2017, it was the largest park in the state of Minnesota that was fully accessible. And it was the third largest in the 5-state region. So it's kind of cool to hang your hat on that. I don't know if it's still at that or not, but 2017. Then we jump up to 2020 and we ended up getting the legacy grant for this building right here. On this footprint used to be a small little bathroom. And then just on the other side over there in the beach, we had a changing room for this beach. So that ended up getting demoed. We ended up building this 4-season shelter. And I'd say it's probably got the best view of the city as far as any of our shelters go. It's the largest shelter that we have out here. Gets used all the time. Whether it's graduation parties, anniversaries, family reunions, birthdays, all that. I think anything else for that. 2/3 of this funding for this project was through the legacy grant, and the city paid for a third of it. So we're pretty fortunate to be getting all these grants and the private contributions and stuff like that. In 2022, we had local sales tax pass. And we were able to fund $3 million out here for Robbins Island, which included the shelter over there by the boat landing. We had a remodel project of the jury shelter, it's right across the road, another shelter up on the hill. And the open shelter way in the back. And we were also able to fund the road reconstruction, parking lots, lighting, and trail lighting with that. Actually have money left over after that also, so it was a fun project to do. This year, we ended up getting a grant for it's a DNR grant, it's called Get Out More grant. And we're gonna be constructing 4 fishing platforms on a peninsula that jets out that way. And that's kind of a cool project. It's basically 8x8 box culverts that people use for road construction. And they take them and they put them up like a silo in 4 different locations. They fill them full of rock. They put a concrete base on it. So you're able to rig wheelchair out onto it. And yeah, and it's all ADA compliant. We'll have a hard surface going off of those, so just to enhance shore fishing more, and not everybody can afford a boat or 2 boats. So, but yeah, we have a community center that's right across the road. They're talking about possibly having some kind of fishing pole rentals or giveaways or whatever for youth, and that they can come out here and use that. You can also see there's a fishing pier here that that's a collaboration with DNR and MinCor, and ended up building those, and we have actually 2 of those on this lake. One's on the other side over at Raw Park, and they get used a lot. I've seen some big fish get caught off those. And then the project that we've been working on for a little over a year now is this amphitheater project, and that's also a legacy grant. We were awarded 1.3 million to start the project for phase 1. And we are asking for another phase to that grant. I think we're still in process, we'll find out whether we get that or not, but so the amphitheater, if anybody wants to go see where that area is, it's in that open area, grass, big area back there. We currently hold Rockin' Robbins out there, which is the Rotary Club puts that on, and it's a free concert series for 4 weeks in a row. Held on Tuesday nights. They got beer gardens and food trucks, and I think we get anywhere from, depending on who the band is, we could get 3,000 to 7,000 or 8,000 people out there. So it's great for the city, the community loves it. I always hear people asking, you guys going to Rockin' Robbins, who's playing, you know, and so it's been a good collaboration with those clubs. So, this is a unique plan, which I don't know if we have stuck over there. Oh, stuck over there, okay. Yeah, so this would be the main stage facing the grass open area. And then this is, actually it's a 2-sided amphitheater. So this would be the backside, and this would be, it's a smaller stage, and it's facing more of the oak trees up on that hillside. So they're talking possibly bigger bands here and then smaller 1-man band, or maybe community plays, wedding venue, anything like that, smaller. So, and that's been quite in the park has evolved quite a bit in the last 25 years from being maybe you could buy your Marijuana back in that park. Oh, it's legal. So you don't have to go back there. Some days you don't come here and watching a band and so. If there's any questions or not, but that's pretty much all I have, but. If anybody wants to, like I said, if anybody wants to go look at the other shelters or the destination playground or even the area where the amphitheater is, we can take a walk if you like, so. I don't know if you have anything.
I don't, I think you covered it very well, maybe know where to buy things now. Just, appreciate everyone choosing this venue for your fall meeting. Like Kurt said, it's nice to see how much it gets used. It's spring time comes around, we get school buses galore going to the playground, so it's fun to see the kids out there. The trail gets used a lot. Like you said, all these shelters are rented out constantly. You know, as a public works staff, we work closely with Rob, who's the Parks and Rec, and maintaining the grounds, looking for new ideas but yeah, we appreciate you guys coming out here. Any questions, we'll try to answer.
You still do your holiday?
Yeah, I was just gonna touch on that, I forgot to mention that, so there is a Celebrate the Light, it's about a mile long. Drive-through of, I think, I read somewhere of like 900,000 Christmas lights. That they put up out here, and it's a free will donation that usually gets donated to the food shelf or I don't know, Salvation Army, it's some local stuff, so, yeah, we still do that, yep.
Just gonna start setting up, the end of October here, we helped with a few of the raising of the shooting star. I think they have Candy by Power come out and help with some things, municipal help, so a lot of volunteer efforts, and we will say it goes up very quickly, you get a lot of volunteers to set it up, and then springtime, we gotta start mowing out here, we gotta.
We have ran over some extension cords with the lawn.
Springtime, my hands here, so yeah.
But yeah, it's a great new addition to this area. I know a lot of people look forward to it, a lot of kids love it, so. Yeah.
Can you talk about the trail system within the park? You said the park is fully accessible. How expensive is the trail system and is it all paved and what kind of use do you have in it? Is it bicycles or walkers?
It's both, when we did the 2020 local option sales tax, we redid these roads and we connected a few trails and paved them. I would say probably 75% of the trails in Robbins Island are paved. We used to have a drive-through, which we do open up for and Celebrate the Light. But typically through the off season to Celebrate the Light, we have gates and we don't allow people to drive through. So it is strictly walking, biking. We do have some a gravel or class 2 type trails in the wooded area. And disc golfers will use those also. So it's a shared disc golf, walking, biking in those areas.
And how many miles?
Well, I think the actual, I don't know with the dirt path, but just the loop, I'd say from destination around back to destination is about 3/4 of a mile.
Okay.
And then there's more in the wooded areas too, that I don't have a distance on those, yeah.
That's okay, yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
that gives me an idea.
Yeah.
Like Kurt said, that connects to the Dean Park on the other side of the bridge. The Dean Park, which connects to trails that bring you back to 7th Street racetrack area, head north to the golf course. So it's a connecting spot to many trails and, you know.
Part of that disc golf, part of it is here, I'd say, I don't know, there's 10 or maybe there's 12 holes here. And then the rest of it over at Eden Park. So if you're golfer, you have to walk across the walking bridge into Eden Park and loops around, comes back through.
If you haven't been to our light show in the winter, it's one of the better ones in southwestern Minnesota and really, in many ways, signifies that whole regional park designation because we live about 40 miles southwest of here, and my kids that are grown up love to come here and go through the winter show, and as a result, then when we're coming during the summer, they wanted to stop, and so I think that whole aspect of that community program, and the longitudinal aspect of it really brings a lot of people in from Southwest region to utilize the biking trails and everything that you have here, so.
I think the dates on that Celebrate Festival is right after Thanksgiving, is like the weekend after Thanksgiving. And then it goes to the first year. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you so. You've been wonderful hosts. Really appreciate it. This is a great space to gather in. So that now we are kind of wrapping up. So if you haven't talked to Tom about either paying today or being invoiced, please stop in front of Tom. And just stop and, you know, say. Educate. Yeah, so you can say, if you like. Or